Chapter 1792, Ancestor Yen, Who? Who is it? Who's so that powerful that they can easily wound a mid-god? Is the person the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan? The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is actually so powerful. Surely the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan isn't an over-god. The gods from the various clans of the city all became very perturbed as their hearts churned. Everyone disperse. Do not disturb the breakthroughs of my friends. If there is a second time, I will not show any mercy at all. At the same time, an indifferent and emotionless voice boomed out from the forbidden grounds of the Tian Yuan clan. None of the gods could send the senses of their soul into the forbidden grounds because formations protected it, so they had no idea what was going on inside. It's his voice. Huoluji's face became extremely ugly when he heard the somewhat familiar voice. He immediately thought of the young man who had stolen the land of the Sun family from him several days ago. That young man is actually so powerful. It is to the point where he can injure a mid-god with just a single strike. Such strength has even surpassed late god. Is he an over-god? Huoluji immediately paled. No, that's impossible. It's impossible for him to be an over-god. There are only so many of them in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, and all of them are supreme existences. How can they be so bored that they've come to the Dong'an province to buy land? That's just completely unnecessary. Huoluji denied his guesses firmly. According to the rules of the divine kingdom, any over-god possessed the right to take over an entire province and make the province their territory. The entire provincial city would also be his property, so there would be no need for them to buy land like what Jianchen had done. Moreover, Jianchen had even bought land in a relatively remote region. That was not something that an over-god would do. At this moment, two other figures shot over from the distance with lightning speed, arriving above the Tian Yuan clan in a short moment. It was a middle-aged, scholarly man in red robes and an extremely handsome young man who only seemed to be in his 20s. Their appearances immediately caused the other gods in the surroundings to gently clasp their hands in greeting. There were even quite a few people who revealed fear in their eyes. This was because the two of them were part of the three great experts of the provincial city who stood beside Nanyan Tong. They were both late gods. I am Dong Yunjian, and I have come to visit the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. I am Huajun, and I have come to visit the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. Dong Yunjian and Huajin both stared at the forbidden grounds of the Tian Yuan clan sternly as they spoke with clasped fists. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan had managed to heavily injure a mid-god, and he had even done it in a fashion where the mid-god could not fight back at all. Both of them believed that they could not accomplish this, and only over-gods could reproduce such results. All the gods present looked away from Huajun and Dong Yunjian at that moment. They all stared at the forbidden grounds of the Tian Yuan clan that was encased by formations. At the same time, the figures in the surroundings flickered. Gods from all over the city gathered over one by one. Not only had all the gods from the more powerful clans moved out, but even the gods who did not belong to the provincial city had come as well, causing the number of gods gathered here to reach into the 50s. In just a short moment, all the gods within the entire provincial city had gathered above the Tian Yuan clan. Although the large energy-gathering formation in the Tian Yuan clan had attracted everyone's attention earlier, they did not take the matter to heart, as this was a problem for the clans that belonged to the city. However, it was very likely that an over-god had appeared in the Tian Yuan clan now. This matter was extremely important, so it raised the attention of everyone. Even in the divine kingdoms around the divine kingdom of Pingtian, over-gods possessed extremely great statuses, let alone the divine kingdom of Pingtian itself. They were known to be the peak force of a divine kingdom. This was because regardless of the divine kingdom of Pingtian or the neighboring divine kingdoms, they only possessed around a dozen over-gods across the entire nation. If the over-gods who had died in God King Duanmu's dwelling were taken into consideration, some of the divine kingdoms possessed less than 10 overgods now. This was more than enough to demonstrate the rarity of overgods. The patriarch has already said to not disturb the breakthroughs of his friends. Once you cause them to fail due for some reason, you should be able to imagine the consequences. Mo Ling held his chest up high as he hovered in the air, speaking to everyone in high spirits. Everyone, please return. In a few days, our Tian Yuan clan will hold a founding ceremony. At that time, you will naturally be able to see the patriarch himself, Ando Fu added in amazement. Several years ago, he had to act submissively before these gods simply because he was afraid of offending them. However, he could now directly act as he wished before these gods. Even the 3 great experts of the provincial city could do nothing to him, and they were unwilling to offend him. The gods of the provincial city naturally had nothing more to say in response to Mo Ling and Ando Fu's words. They all continued with a few words of courtesy before leaving. The ancestors of the clans in the provincial city treated the Tian Yuan clan completely differently now. They had come all sunken-faced, but they had left enthusiastically, and some even acted politely. They did not dare to speak about the energy-gathering formation in the Tian Yuan clan anymore. Wait. Huoluji of the Hua family and Dong Shengri of the Dong family have been impolite towards our patriarch, so please stay behind for the judgment of the patriarch. Just when the people of the Hua family and the Dong family were about to leave, Ando Fu suddenly spoke out. The expressions of the 2 late gods from the Hua family and the Dong family changed when they heard that. The faces of Huoluji and the mid-god from the Dong family who Jian Chen had wounded sank, becoming extremely ugly. Luji, you should stay in the Tian Yuan clan for the time being. Be sure to properly make it up to the patriarch, Hua Jun said indifferently. Shengri, you should stay behind for now as well, Dong Yunjian said to the mid-god of his family as well. He was filled with helplessness. In the end, Huoluji and Dong Shengri both stayed behind. They had basically become prisoners. Even though the person who wanted Huoluji and Dong Shengri to stay behind was Ando Fu, the strongest experts of the Hua family and the Dong family did not dare to object. This was because the Tian Yuan clan possessed an overgod. Before an overgod, the 3 great experts of the provincial city were a joke. In the blink of an eye, all the gods gathered at the Tian Yuan clan dispersed, while the disturbance the energy-gathering formation caused calmed down just like this. The gods of the Hua family and the Dong family passed on orders as quickly as they could, returning all the territory they had taken from the Tian Yuan clan. They had even replaced the destroyed signs with replicas that were exactly the same. The other gods did not sit around idly when they returned to their clans either. They gathered all their elders to hold an emergency meeting as they discussed the Tian Yuan clan sternly. The Tian Yuan clan had an overgod, so this would affect the provincial city extremely greatly. The addition of an overgod to any provincial city would directly alter the city's fate. The 2 early gods who had fought against Jian Chen from the Wainer clan gathered together as well. Their faces were extremely ugly. The overgod from the Tian Yuan clan must be Jian Chen. I never thought he would found a clan in the provincial city. This is an utter disaster for our Wainer clan. Sigh. Right now, Jian Chen has just founded the clan, so he has been held down by various matters, which is why he still hasn't bothered with us. Once he has gotten the entire provincial city under him in the future, he'll probably start moving against our Wainer clan. After all, we fell out with him outside God King Duanmu's dwelling in the past. The 2 gods from the Wainer clan discussed with much worry. Anxiety and bitterness filled their faces. Great-grandfathers, why have you become so worried? At this moment, a young man in embroidered robes walked in from outside. He smiled faintly, possessing the joy and excitement of coming home from a long journey. When the 2 early gods saw the young man, they were stunned, but it was soon replaced by joy. They both cried out, Xiao Yan. The young man was the ancestor who had left the Wainer clan for almost 10,000 years, Ancestor Yan. Chapter 1793, Breakthroughs to Godhood. Ancestor Yan's full name was Wainer Yan. His talent was extraordinary, and he was the most outstanding clansman ever since the Wainer clan was founded. In just 30,000 years, he had reached early god, becoming the fifth ancestor of the Wainer clan at such a young age. Afterwards, he spent 5,000 more years to go from early god to mid-god. Even with the entire divine kingdom of Ping Tian in perspective, there was barely anyone who could match up to his talent and cultivation speed. The Wainer clan, on the other hand, held very high hopes for Wainer Yan. After breaking through to mid-god, Wainer Yan went traveling all by himself and had just returned today. Great-grandfather Tsong, great-grandfather Xuanguang, how come I don't see great-grandfather Sen and great-grandfather Ti? Wainer Yan smiled with a sense of closeness. The great-grandfather Sen and great-grandfather Ti he was referring to were naturally the two mid-gods of the Wainer clan, Wainer Sen and Wainer Ti. Wainer Yan was also an ancestor of the Wainer clan now, making his status equal to the other gods. However, due to his age, he always referred to the other ancestors of the Wainer clan as great-grandfathers. Wainer Tsong and Wainer Xuanguan became gloomy when they heard the question. They said, "Xiao Yan, just too many things have happened in the Dong'an province recently. Your great-grandfathers Sen and Ti have already fallen." "What? Great-grandfather Sen and great-grandfather Ti are already dead?" Wainer Yan's face changed suddenly, and his smile disappeared. It was converted into grief. Afterwards, Wainer Tsong and Wainer Xuanguang explained everything that had happened in the recent years to him, including the opening of God King Duanmu's dwelling and the battle with Jian Chen outside. They hid nothing. "Xiao Yan. Both your grandfather Sen and grandfather Ti died in God King Duanmu's dwelling. They lost their lives to the killing formations cast down by God King Duanmu. However, we find it very fortunate now, fortunately, you weren't in the Dong'an province when the dwelling had opened. Otherwise, you would have probably been doomed as well. Just too many gods died in God King Duanmu's dwelling. Let alone gods, even quite a few overgods died. There were even late overgods among them." Sigh, Wainer Tsong and Wainer Xuanguan said slowly. When they mentioned the dwelling of God King Duanmu now, they were no longer enthusiastic. There was only indifference and melancholy. "Great-grandfather Sen, great-grandfather Ti, how did you just go like that? You didn't even see me unite the entire Dong'an province beneath me. You didn't even see the day when our Wainer clan would become the greatest clan in the Dong'an province," Wainer Yan murmured to himself. He was extremely grief-stricken. The eyes of Wainer Tsong and Wainer Xuanguang immediately narrowed when they heard Wainer Yan's words. They looked at Wainer Yan with brimming interest as disbelief flooded their faces. At the same time, there was eagerness and excitement. Even the Hua family, the Dong family, or the Nanyun clan did not dare to say the bold and lofty words of uniting the entire province and becoming the greatest clan in the province because late gods were not enough to rule over an entire provincial city. Although late gods were peak experts in the Dong'an province, there were many other gods in other clans as well. Early and mid-gods were not the opponents of late gods in single combat, but they could deal with late gods if they worked together. A late god would be unable to reign supreme within a provincial city. If a late god tried to do that, the other clans would definitely band together to suppress the late god. Even late gods would die when they became completely outnumbered by experts of a similar level. As a result, for a clan to dominate an entire provincial city in the divine kingdom of Ping Tian and many of the other divine kingdoms in the surroundings, they would need an overgod. Only overgods could reign supreme in a provincial city. "Xiao Yan, what's your current cultivation?" Wainer Tsong asked. His voice trembled slightly. Suddenly, Wainer Yan emitted a tremendous presence. The presence was so powerful that it had completely exceeded late god, reaching a whole new level. Wainer Tsong and Wainer Xuanguan were greatly shocked and they sensed the chillingly powerful presence. Surprise flooded their faces, along with uncontainable excitement. Over-God. Xiao Yan, you've actually become an over-God. Jian Chen currently sat a meter above the ground in the forbidden grounds of the Tian Yuan clan as he guarded over the people who were breaking through. The moment Weiner Yan gave off his over-God presence, Jian Chen slowly opened his eyes and gazed in the direction of the Weiner clan. Weiner Yan's presence had only filled the hall of the Weiner clan and had not extended beyond that. As such, even many of the elders in the Weiner clan had failed to sense it. However, it was not enough to hide from Jian Chen's senses. An over-God has actually appeared in the provincial city, Jian Chen murmured softly, and a light flickered through his eyes. However, at this moment, the presence of a breakthrough suddenly appeared in the forbidden grounds. The people from the Tian Yuan continent had finally stepped into godhood. It's Mu'er. Mu'er has actually broken through before the white tiger. Jian Chen stood on the ground now. He looked towards where Shengguan Mu'er cultivated as he smiled faintly. 2 hours into Shengguan Mu'er's breakthrough, another presence appeared. Vaguely, it was filled with a presence of slaughter, making the surrounding temperature drop slightly. The white tiger has broken through as well, Jian Chen smiled even wider. To him, being able to personally witness them reach godhood was an extremely happy matter. Soon after Shengguan Mu'er and the white tiger began their breakthrough, the others broke through as well, successfully reaching godhood. However, the third one to break through was the 7-colored heaven-devouring beast, which had remained the size of a fist the whole time, never taking a human form. Houston was the fourth person to break through among everyone. Afterwards, Xiao Jin, Xiao Ling, Rui Jin, Hong Lian, He Yu, Nubis, as well as Xiong Zhong, Cheng Jingyun, and so on from the world of Forsaken Saints followed. Originally, it was impossible for a few of them to reach godhood so quickly, but due to the droplet of liquid lime from Jian Chen that was enough for even over-gods to lay their lives down for, they had all comprehended the laws of the world much earlier and formally reached godhood. The simultaneous breakthrough of over a dozen people naturally caused quite the disturbance. However, since formations protected the forbidden grounds, no outsider learnt about their breakthroughs. Chapter 1794, Founding Ceremony, 1. After breaking through, no one emerged from seclusion immediately. They only came out after 3 days of consolidation. Ha ha ha, I never thought that there would be a day where I, He Yu, would become a god. In the past, Origin Realm experts were insurmountable existences to me, but now, I can crush some of the weaker Origin Realm sovereigns with just a finger, He Yu laughed aloud. In the past, Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and he were trapped within the artifact space like prisoners. They did not even know what the outside world looked like. Yet now, in less than 100 years, he had gone from being a prisoner to a deity. It had only been less than a century, but both his status and strength had undergone a tremendous change. He Yu felt like it was all a dream. I never thought that I, the great Nubis, would become a deity one day. I do wish that I could return to the ancient times of the Tian Yuan continent. With my strength as a deity, the 4 supreme experts who surpassed Saint Emperor are nothing. They'll all be standing beneath me, Nubis also chuckled aloud. He was in extremely high spirits. Although the other people who had become deities did not say anything noble, their faces were also plastered with excitement and joy. Jian Chen could not help but smile from the bottom of his heart when he saw how overjoyed everyone was. At that moment, he felt extremely at ease as well. This was the first time Jian Chen had experienced this feeling, this mood, after coming to the saints' world. As he saw everyone's joy from becoming deities, he also thought about his firm standing in the provincial city. Jian Chen felt like all the hardships, fighting, and killing in the past few years had been worth it. This was because all the fighting and killing he had gone through was just to create a safe land for his friends and family that had come up to the higher world with him. Jian Chen, it really has been tough for you in these past few years. Shengguan Mu'er arrived before Jian Chen in her purple dress. She stared at Jian Chen affectionately with her enchanting eyes. Jian Chen smiled as he looked at Shangguan Mu'er's heavenly beauty. He gently raised his hand and rubbed her cheek. His eyes were also filled with affection as he said gently, "As long as you all can live a peaceful life, everything I do is worth it." Shangguan Mu'er did not say anything. She wrapped her slender arm around Jian Chen and pressed her head against his chest gently. She understood that Jian Chen had done everything in the recent years for them. It must have been very tough for him to be outside all alone. Although they had no idea what kind of dangers Jian Chen had encountered, they could tell their severity when they saw an unconscious Shen Jian delivered into the divine hall before. Jian Chen also wrapped his hand around Shangguan Mu'er gently. He became extremely calm. At this moment, he experienced a certain type of warmth that he had not felt in a very long time. The two of them did not speak much and spent their time together silently. To them, silence was better right now. From afar, the people who had just broken through silently dismissed themselves. They did not make any sounds as they departed, leaving time and space to Jian Chen and Shangguan Mu'er. The next morning, the deity elders all left the Tian Yuan clan simultaneously to deliver invitations. They flew towards various locations of the provincial city as they sent the invitations to the powerful clans one by one. The elders were not people from the Tian Yuan clan, and they were all originally from the Mo clan and the Ando clan. However, there was no longer a Mo clan or an Ando clan in the Dong'an province anymore. There was only a Tian Yuan clan. All the clansmen of the two clans had become part of the Tian Yuan clan. The Tian Yuan clan wants to hold a founding ceremony. It's extremely likely for the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan to be an over-god. We must go to their founding ceremony. Has the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan finally begun to move? Looks like the Tian Yuan clan will dominate the provincial city from today onwards. Immediately prepare rich gifts. In 3 days, all the gods in the clan shall come with me to congratulate the Tian Yuan clan. The invitations from the Tian Yuan clan raised the attention of all the people in the various clans. Their ancestors all held the invitations as they sternly ordered others to prepare gifts. Ever since the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan revealed his strength, the status of the Tian Yuan clan in the provincial city had been rising silently, becoming an existence that no one dared to provoke anymore. All the powerful clans had to accept the invitation from the Tian Yuan clan and did not dare to decline it. In 3 days, you three come with me to visit the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, in the huge stone tower within the Nanyan clan. One of the 3 great experts of the provincial city, Nanyan Tong, said sternly to the 3 other gods of his clan. The Weiner clan had also received an invitation from a deity of the Tian Yuan clan. After losing 2 mid-gods, the Weiner clan had descended to a point where they were one of the weaker clans in the city. If it were not for one of their gods who had gone out journeying, the Weiner clan would have lost the right to remain within the provincial city. At this moment, Weiner Tsong, Weiner Shuangguan, and Weiner Yen sat in the air within a room. The invitation from the Tian Yuan clan was held in Weiner Yan's hand. He pinched it between 2 of his fingers casually as his young and handsome face revealed that he was in deep thought. "Xiao Yan, what do you think of this?" Weiner Tsong looked at Weiner Yen and asked him. "Let's let Xiao Yan make all the decisions regarding this. From today onwards, Xiao Yan's words will be absolute in the Weiner clan. We 2 senile old men will both listen to Xiao Yan," said Weiner Shuangguang. Now that Weiner Yen was an over-god, his status naturally differed from the past. Even though Weiner Tsong and Weiner Shuangguan were Weiner Yan's seniors, they would behave politely before Weiner Yen from time to time. They did not even dare to speak too boldly. Weiner Yen said while in thought, "I never thought that a second over-god would appear in the Dong'an province. This is rather unexpected. Although the origins of the over-god in the Tian Yuan clan are rather mysterious, he's still an expert at the same level as me. Our clan naturally has to attend his founding ceremony. 2 over-gods have appeared in the provincial city. Who'll be the one who controls the city in the future then? Wainer Tsong said gloomily. Let alone the divine kingdom of Ping Tian, two overgods had never even appeared in the provincial cities of the neighboring divine kingdoms either. Only the royal city of a divine kingdom would possess many overgods. Wainer Yen smiled coldly in response to that. He said, the Dong'an province will naturally be in our Wainer clan's control. Our Wainer clan is the proper clan in the provincial city. I naturally have no objections if the Tian Yuan clan wants to remain in the provincial city. In fact, I welcome them. I'd even give them quite a large piece of land. However, if they want to reign supreme within the provincial city, I can only kick them out of here. Chapter 1795, Founding Ceremony, 2, There were no absolute secrets in the world. Soon after the Tian Yuan clan sent invitations to the other clans in the provincial city, the upcoming founding ceremony caused quite an uproar within the provincial city. When the Tian Yuan clan was first founded, there were barely any people in the provincial city who paid attention to them. There were even many people who looked down on the small, newly founded clan. However, it was a completely different case now. The gods in the provincial city only suspected that it was extremely likely the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was an overgod. Many other people had completely no idea about anything regarding the Tian Yuan clan. However, many people could tell that the Tian Yuan clan was not simple. Just the simple fact they possessed such a large energy-gathering formation and were still fine spoke volumes. As a result, the Tian Yuan clan had basically become the center of everyone's attention. Anything related to the Tian Yuan clan would garner the attention of everyone. The founding ceremony of the Tian Yuan clan was naturally not an exception. An extremely vast city sat on a land extremely distant from the Dong'an province like a slumbering, primordial beast. Just its ancient city walls that were covered with marks left behind by time was over 1,000 meters tall. From afar, it seemed to reach directly into the heavens. The city walls really could be described as towering into the clouds. It was majestic and extravagant, making for an extremely imposing sight. The city surrounded by the walls was almost boundless as well. It was several dozen times larger than the provincial city of the Dong'an province. Just traveling between the eastern and western gates of the city would take a relatively long time. For ordinary people, it would have even been impossible for them to cover that distance in their entire lifetimes. This city was the royal city of the divine kingdom of Ping Tian. In the center of the royal city stood an ancient yet dignified royal palace. This was the most sacred and revered place in the entire divine kingdom of Ping Tian because it was where the divine king and the grand imperial protector resided. The two of them were the most powerful existences in the divine kingdom of Ping Tian, as well as the only two god kings. In the depths of the royal palace, inside a majestic hall, two people currently sat before each other as they focused their attention on the chessboard before them. One of them was a white-robed old man with a long, white beard. He seemed extremely ordinary, just like a regular mortal. His appearance was the type that would struggle to raise any attention if he stood in a crowd. The other person was a middle-aged man in purple robes. His face was resolute, and his eyes shone brightly, giving off a sense of dignity. The middle-aged man possessed the vague presence of a ruler. The middle-aged man was the divine king of the divine kingdom of Ping Tian, while the old man before him was the grand imperial protector. A Tian Yuan clan has appeared in the Dong'an province. From the analysis of the information from the people below, the Tian Yuan clan was probably founded by Jian Chen. What do you think of it, Ping Tian? The Grand Imperial Protector held a white piece in his hand as he hesitated for quite some time while speaking calmly. You thought of Jian Chen extremely highly before, and since he can even repel Chanlong, he's very extraordinary. He'll even be able to become a god king in the future. Although this Jian Chen did seem to appear out of nowhere, so his origins are rather mysterious, that's not important. What is important is that since he plans on developing my divine kingdom of Ping Tian, we naturally welcome him very much. After all, with every extra over-god our divine kingdom possesses, the stronger we grow, said the divine king. You share the same thoughts as me. Whether Jian Chen is a citizen of our divine kingdom of Ping Tian or not, we have to rope him in no matter what. Even if we ignore his strength, just his background is enough for us to do that, the Grand Imperial Protector said plainly as he stroked his beard. The divine king raised an eyebrow and said, "Are you talking about the soul that Jian Chen assisted in God King Duanmu's dwelling, as well as the young man who saved him in the end?" That's right. Before God King Duanmu passed away, he had managed to plant a foot in the primordial realm. He protected himself with the power of his laws. Even if we wanted to get through it, we'd have to spend quite some effort, yet that soul could pass actually through. And that young man who appeared outside was actually protected by another God King. That means that the organization behind him possesses a primordial realm expert at the very least, said the Grand Imperial Protector. The Divine King nodded. After a moment of thought, he called outside, "Xian Do." With that, a black-robed, burly middle-aged man walked in from outside. He clasped his fist towards the Divine King and the Grand Imperial Protector. A sliver of reverence appeared on his face. To no surprise, the man called Xian Do was an over-god. The Tian Yuan clan of the Dong'an province is about to hold their founding ceremony. Take rich gifts with you to the Tian Yuan clan and congratulate their patriarch for me, the Divine King said sternly. Yes, Your Majesty. Xian Do clasped his fist before backing away. In the icy world of the frigid snow province, Bing Lu stood before a huge, icy mountain with his hunched back and dragon-headed staff. Behind him was a middle-aged man in luxurious robes. He stood there politely as he even held his breath. The middle-aged man was the current patriarch of the Yubing clan, Bing Lin. Bing Lin, prepare rich gifts and personally visit the Dong'an province to congratulate the Tian Yuan clan on their founding. Also, greet the patriarch of the clan for me, Bing Lu said without even looking back. Yes, ancestor. At the same time, Guhan Shui, Feng Buell, and Eugene all sent people to the Dong'an province as well. There had been a total of 5 over-gods who had struck it off with Jian Chen in God King Duanmu's dwelling back then. Only Ling Hogong did not react to the founding ceremony. Ever since he left God King Duanmu's dwelling, he seemed to have completely vanished. No one knew where he had gone. 3 days later, the Tian Yuan clan was particularly busy. All the powerful clans in the provincial city had arrived at the clan early with great gifts, and without any exceptions, the people leading each group of clansmen were gods. The people all smiled and behaved extremely politely. Even when the Hua family and the Dong family possessed gods who were held captive in the Tian Yuan clan, they did not dare to show any displeasure as if they had completely forgotten the matter altogether. Chapter 1796, Founding Ceremony, 3. The people from the Dong and Hua families behaved like this because they all suspected that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was an over-god. Without a single doubt, the entire provincial city would belong to the over-god now that he had come to the Dong'an province and founded a clan in the provincial city. Even the royal city would not interfere with this matter, so they naturally did not dare to offend the Tian Yuan clan. The patriarch of the Yubing clan has come to congratulate the Tian Yuan clan on its founding. Just when all the clans in the city had gathered, a loud voice suddenly rang out from outside. The message stunned all the people gathered within the hall. Surprise filled their faces soon afterwards. What? People from the Yubing clan of the frigid snow province have come? They've even come to congratulate the Tian Yuan clan on its founding. The patriarch of the Yubing clan has actually come personally. Am I hallucinating? The Yubing clan is an organization that possesses an over-god. Looks like the background of the Tian Yuan clan is far greater than we have ever imagined. Otherwise, why would the Yubing clan from one of the 5 great provincial cities send people here? The people from the powerful clans all murmured to themselves inside. However, before long, the following message utterly stunned the ancestors of the various clans again. They all stared at the entrance dumbfounded. The patriarch of the Guhan family has arrived, the patriarch of the Feng family has arrived, the patriarch of the Yu family has come. Aside from the sword-seeking province, the 4 other clans with overgods among the 5 great provincial cities had all sent important figures with great gifts to congratulate the Tian Yuan clan on its founding. Moreover, these important figures were all the patriarchs of their clans. With just that, all the people from the provincial city of the Dong'an province struggled to remain calm. Just a founding ceremony of the Tian Yuan clan had attracted the congratulations from 4 organizations with overgods. Just what kind of prestige did the Tian Yuan clan possess in the divine kingdom of Pingtian? After all, it was only founded recently and was mostly composed of people from the Mo clan and the Ando clan. The people of the Weiner clan sat at the very back of the hall. They had been seated there as it meant that they were one of the worst clans present. There were even many other clans who would treat the Weiner clan with disdain. A total of 4 people had come from the Weiner clan. They were the 2 gods, Weiner Tsong and Weiner Shuangguan, their overgod, Weiner Yen, and their late deity patriarch, Weiner Yi. Weiner Yen was in no hurry to reveal his strength, so he erased his presence and hid it away. He sat towards the back quietly, so he only seemed like a deity on the surface. At this moment, even Weiner Yen felt rather surprised when he discovered that 4 other clans with overgods had sent important figures like their patriarchs to take part in the Tian Yuan clan's founding ceremony. However, Weiner Yen began to smile profoundly soon afterwards. He thought to himself, before long, our Weiner clan will be able to enjoy treatment like this as well. I will make the Weiner clan glorious and proud. The patriarchs of the Yubing clan, Guhan clan, Feng family, and Yu family walked side by side as they entered the hall together. They smiled as they conversed with Mo Ling and Ando Fu, who had come forth to receive them. They spoke politely and dismissed any arrogance that they might have possessed as patriarchs of clans with overgods. This was because they had all come to visit under their ancestors' orders. They understood the power of the Tian Yuan clan. It was an existence that could never be provoked. After everyone had arrived, Jian Chen finally entered the hall in white clothes. Beside him was Shengguan Mu'er in a purple dress. She held on to Jian Chen's arm gently as she made her way towards the seat at the very front with Jian Chen. At that moment, the entire hall fell silent. Whether it was the gods of the Dong'an province or the patriarchs of the 4 clans with overgods, they all held their breaths as they stared at Jian Chen. Although Shengguan Mu'er was so pretty that she could be described as prettier than a goddess, clearly, no one was in the mood to pay any attention to her. What everyone cared for the most and paid the most attention to was Jian Chen, who possessed the strength of an overgod. This was because they understood that the entire provincial city would be in the young man's hands from this day onwards. Jian Chen and Shengguan Mu'er made their way to the throne that represented the patriarch's seat, and they sat down slowly. Jian Chen smiled plainly. He glanced past everyone below and clasped his hands. He said, "I'm Jian Chen, and this is my beloved wife, Shengguan Mu'er. Thank you all for coming. Ha ha ha, the journey was a little long, so I hope that I'm not late." The commander of the Royal Divine Army of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, Xian Do, greets the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. I congratulate the Tian Yuan clan on its founding, and I believe that the province will become more and more powerful under the lead of the Tian Yuan clan. Before Jian Chen had finished speaking, a rough voice rang out from outside. A burly, middle-aged man in black robes strode in. He bore a smile, filling him with a sense of friendliness. Even the commander of the Royal Divine Army have come. Aside from the Divine King and the Grand Imperial Protector, he's the one with the greatest authority. when overgods have appeared in other provinces, His Majesty the Divine King normally only sends god emissaries to congratulate them, yet His Majesty has actually sent the commander of the Royal Divine Army for the founding of the Tian Yuan clan. Sir Xian Do is a late overgod. He's the only one who can hold his ground against Yan Kai in our divine kingdom of Ping Tian. Everyone's faces changed once again with Xian Do's entry. They all stood up and clasped their fists towards Xian Do politely. They were greatly unsettled inside. Jian Chen saw Xian Do, and his eyes immediately narrowed. He immediately stood up and clasped his fist towards Xian Do as well, greeting him politely. Xian Do's strength had actually reached late overgod. The only thing was that Xian Do had not entered God King Duanmu's dwelling. Although quite a few overgods of the divine kingdom of Ping Tian had gathered within God King Duanmu's dwelling, they only accounted for 70 or 80% of the entire kingdom's overgods. In reality, there were a few overgods that did not take part. Patriarch, I have come under the orders of His Majesty to congratulate you. Please accept this. With a wave of his hand, 10 blocks of high-grade divine crystal appeared in the air. Although he was a late overgod, he did not act snobbishly towards Jian Chen at all. The sight of 10 blocks of high-grade divine crystal surprised Jian Chen. This was a great gift and a tremendous amount of wealth to him currently. It had even surpassed what he obtained from God King Duanmu's dwelling. His Majesty is just far too polite. I do hope Senior Xian Do can thank His Majesty for me for his great gifts, Jian Chen said with clasped fists. After accepting the 10 blocks of divine crystal, the founding ceremony for the Tian Yuan clan began. Jian Chen also declared that the Tian Yuan clan had been founded in the provincial city as the patriarch of the clan. Congratulations on the founding of the Tian Yuan clan. From today onwards, our Nanyun clan is willing to abide by anything the patriarch says. Nanyun Tong stood forwards first. At the same time, he expressed that his Nanyun clan was willing to submit to the Tian Yuan clan. Congratulations on the founding of the Tian Yuan clan. Looks like with the Tian Yuan clan, our Dong'an province has become the 6th great province of the divine kingdom of Ping Tian. Ha ha ha. I have utter confidence that our Dong'an province will become more and more powerful under the lead of the patriarch. A few ancestors of the clans in the provincial city spoke out. Just like the Nanyun clan, they directly expressed their desire to submit to the Tian Yuan clan. As for the other clans, although they did not directly say that they wanted to submit to the Tian Yuan clan, they all expressed their willingness to abide by the control of the Tian Yuan clan and any arrangements they made. Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, I've heard that you weren't a person of our Dong'an province initially. As a result, I have no objections if you want to found a clan in the provincial city, but if you want to reign supreme and unite all the clans, I, Weiner Yen, cannot allow this. At this moment, a discordant voice rang out from below. All the people in the hall immediately became stunned when they heard that. Shock filled their faces. Before everyone, someone had actually stated his objection towards an overgod so publicly. He was simply too bold. The commander of the Royal Divine Army, Xian Do, was slightly stunned as well. He soon looked in Weiner Yan's direction, and his eyes immediately narrowed. His face became rather strange as well. Chapter 1797. Too small for two. This person is actually an overgod. He really hit it well. If he did not speak out and draw my attention, I probably still would not know that there was a second overgod in this hall, Xian Do thought. Reflexively, he glanced at Jian Chen, who sat on the patriarch's throne, and his expression became rather strange. He mumbled to himself, looking at it like this. The hidden overgod clearly wants to dominate the entire Dong'an province. The Dong'an province is too small for two overgods to reign supreme. Looks like there'll be a show soon. However, the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is very strong. I heard from the overgods who have returned from God King Duanmu's dwelling that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Chen, had slain 2 early overgods in the dwelling. Even Yang Kai feared him slightly. At the same time, the patriarch has some ties with the overgods from the 5 great provincial cities. A light flickered through Xian Dou's eyes. Although he had not entered God King Duanmu's dwelling, quite a few overgods from the royal city had, so he naturally knew about the events that had transpired in there. As the commander of the royal divine army whose cultivation had reached overgod, it was naturally nothing difficult for him to learn about what had happened from the other overgods. Seeing Weiner Yen object to Jian Chen so publicly, all the gods gathered in the hall looked towards him as well. Since Weiner Yen had maintained an extremely low profile before and concealed his cultivation, he did not draw any attention in the hall earlier. Now that he had exposed himself, many people recognized him immediately. It's Weiner Yen. He was once the greatest prodigy of the province. He went from being a mortal to a god in just a few dozen millennia before spending 5,000 years to go from an early god to mid-god. Weiner Yan's talent is very impressive. At the very least, in our Dong'an province, no one could rival him. It's just that he went traveling 10,000 years ago. I never thought he would return today. Weiner Yen sure is bold to speak out against the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan so publicly. Can't he see that not only have people from 4 of the 5 great provinces come, even the commander of the Royal Divine Army, Sir Xian Dou, has come to congratulate the patriarch as well. After recognizing Weiner Yen, a low hum of discussion immediately appeared in the hall. The seated gods all began to discuss with each other quietly. The reason behind their discussions was to provide Jian Chen with some information regarding Weiner Yen indirectly or to use the opportunity to curry up to Jian Chen directly. Jian Chen also looked towards Weiner Yen. He had been expected this because he knew that a second overgod had appeared in the provincial city, and as soon as he had entered the hall, Jian Chen discovered him. This was not because Jian Chen had seen through Weiner Yen before Xian Dou. Rather, he had always been paying attention to the second overgod in the provincial city. On the other hand, Xian Dou never paid too much attention to anyone else in the hall. He did not even properly look at them, so naturally, Xian Dou failed to discover the hidden Weiner Yen. Weiner Yan's method of disguise was nothing special. It was difficult for those below overgod to tell his strength, but overgods would find out once they paid attention to him. Brother, congratulations on becoming an overgod. From today onwards, our divine kingdom of Pingtian has gained another peak expert. Jian Chen stood up and clasped his fist towards Weiner Yen. He smiled plainly, without minding Weiner Yan's words too much. What? Overgod? Weiner Yen has become an overgod. How is that possible? In just 10,000 years, Weiner Yen has gone from being a mid-god to an overgod. The Weiner clan has actually given birth to an overgod. Everyone was immediately shocked when they heard Jian Chen's words. Disbelief filled all their eyes. Weiner Yen could not help but reveal a sliver of complacency when he saw the shocked faces of the gods around him. He walked forward slowly and stood in the center of the hall. He clasped his fist towards Jian Chen. I am Weiner Yen, and I also congratulate the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan on becoming the second overgod of our Dong'an province. With the existence of the patriarch, my Dong'an province has now become the greatest province in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, both in name and reality. Weiner Yen labeled Jian Chen as the second overgod of the Dong'an province to declare to everyone that he was the first one. He spoke even more firmly towards the end, directly referring to the Dong'an province as his. Without a doubt, he was declaring to Jian Chen that he owned the Dong'an province. The gods gathered here all held their breaths. All of them were knowledgeable and cunning, so they could naturally tell what Weiner Yen was hinting at. Their faces became rather strange, and there was some eagerness as well. They all understood that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan and Weiner Yen would probably engage in a fierce struggle soon. At this moment, Weiner Yen clasped his fist towards Xian Dou, who watched on from one side. He immediately dismissed any snobbishness and said sincerely, in a few days, our Wainer clan will be holding a celebration as well. We will also be setting down some rules for the Dong'an province. I do hope that Senior Xian Do can grant me the honor and come to visit our Wainer clan. Xian Do clasped his hands back at Wainer Yen and said, once the founding ceremony of the Tian Yuan clan comes to an end, I must hurry back to the royal city for new orders. I may not be able to make your clan's celebration. Xian Do did not care about the Wainer clan's celebration at all. The divine kingdom of Pingtian had gained an over-god, holding great significance for the kingdom. Basically, they would receive great gifts from the divine king every time this happened, but there was no need for him, the commander of the royal divine army and a late over-god, to visit personally. Normally, a late god emissary would be enough. The Tian Yuan clan was an exception. Wainer Yan's face changed slightly. He could naturally tell what Xian Do was trying to say. His Wainer clan did not possess the right to invite Xian Do. Xian Do had come visiting with rich gifts for the Tian Yuan clan's founding ceremony, yet he was unwilling to even grant him the honor of attending his Wainer clan's celebration at all. Without a single doubt, it meant that his Wainer clan was not as great as the newly founded Tian Yuan clan in Xian Do's eyes. Wainer Yan's face darkened slightly. Chapter 1798, The Earth Spirit Sect. Looks like the Wainer clan has not caught Sir Xian Do's eye, even when they've gained an over-god, Wainer Yan. However, it seems like Sir Xian Do has personally come to visit the Tian Yuan clan due to the orders of His Majesty. Hence, it'll be more correct to say that Wainer Yan has not caught the eye of the Divine King. Xian Do's behavior caused many of the gods currently gathered in the hall to change their minds slightly. Their gazes towards Jian Chen underwent some minute changes as well. This was because they had realized that the provincial city would probably fall under the Tian Yuan clan's control. Even though that was the case, the gods from the various clans still did not dare to show any disrespect towards the Wainer clan. After all, the Wainer clan was an organization with an over-god now. Although Wainer Yen felt like Xian Do's behavior had embarrassed him, the latter was a late over-god, so Wainer Yen could do nothing about it. Then he looked towards Jian Chen and clasped his fist. In a few days, our Wainer clan will hold a celebration and formally announce that we are now a clan with an over-god to the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian. At the same time, we will lead the province in all matters and pass down some regulations. I hope the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan will grant me the honor of coming. Wainer Yan's voice was assertive. Even though he knew that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was also an over-god, he showed no fear at all, even when he mentioned how he wanted to lead the entire province. Jian Chen's face did not change at all. He sat on the patriarch's throne without moving at all and looked at Wainer Yen from above. He said plainly, "It would be rude for me to not. You have granted me the honor of you attending our founding ceremony today, so I will naturally attend your celebration." Wainer Yen frowned when he heard that. He was not in a good mood. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan had basically said that he was only willing to take part in the Wainer clan's celebration because Wainer Yen had come to his founding ceremony. If Wainer Yen had not come to the founding ceremony, the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan would probably not attend his Wainer clan's celebration. What Wainer Yen found to be even more unacceptable was how the patriarch actually sat high up on the throne and spoke to him while looking down. His face had become rather cold. At this moment, Jian Chen continued, "Though about the province, I think it's best to keep it as it is right now. There's completely no need for any extra regulations. Too many regulations will affect the development of the province." All the gods present secretly beamed inside when they heard that. They were not celebrating the fact that Jian Chen wanted to keep the Dong'an province as it was right now. Instead, they were happy that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan had already begun disagreeing with Wainer Yen. Many of them behaved extremely obediently because they were over-gods, but they felt the exact opposite inside. As a result, They were really eager to see the overgods of the Tian Yuan clan and the Weiner clan turn on each other. They hoped it would get to the point where both overgods suffered heavy injuries. Xian Dou also stood to one side with his crossed arm. He said nothing. However, he felt very perplexed over what would happen as well. Two overgods had actually appeared in a single provincial city. It was going to be lively. Weiner Yan's face sank when he heard Jian Chen's words. His gaze gradually turned into a glare, and he said coldly, "Are you saying that you want to oppose my Weiner clan? Do you also think that my Weiner clan does not have the right to rule over the Dong'an province?" Suddenly, Weiner Yan took out a yellow token. He held the token high in the air and called out, "May I ask if my Weiner clan has the right now?" A protector's token from the Earth Spirit sect. Xian Dou's face changed suddenly when he saw the token, and he cried out. He was extremely shocked. "That's right, it's from the Earth Spirit sect." Weiner Yan became very complacent. He could not help but smile arrogantly. The expressions of the gods present all changed slightly when they heard the words, Earth Spirit sect. They all looked towards Weiner Yan in disbelief. "Commander Xian, may I ask about the Earth Spirit sect?" Jian Chen asked Xian Dou secretly. He had only come to the Dong'an province for so long, so he naturally had no idea about the Earth Spirit sect. A sliver of surprise appeared on Xian Dou's face when he heard Jian Chen's question. He had probably never considered that Jian Chen would not have heard of the Earth Spirit sect despite being an overgod. However, Xian Dou still explained the matter to Jian Chen patiently. The Earth Spirit sect is one of the two most powerful sects in the Heavenly Moon Empire. They're extremely powerful, and they possess 5 or 6 god kings. They also have far more overgods than our divine kingdom of Pingtian. I never thought that this Weiner Yan would be a protector from the Earth Spirit sect. He possesses a certain level of status in the Earth Spirit sect. As such, matters will become difficult now, Jian Chen. Xian Dou explained Weiner Yan's identity rather solemnly. Although Weiner Yan was only an early overgod, the sect behind him was not an existence that could be provoked. The Heavenly Moon Empire? The Earth Spirit sect? Looks like I'll need to spend some time to understand the cloud plane properly, thought Jian Chen. He realized that his understanding of the cloud plane was simply too limited. Patriarch, Commander Xian Dou, may I ask if there's anything you want to say? Weiner Yan held the protector's token as he spoke to Jian Chen and Xian Dou arrogantly. Xian Dou furrowed his brows. He clearly feared Weiner Yan's identity slightly. It was not good news for the Divine Kingdom if he offended a protector of the Earth Spirit sect. This was because the Earth Spirit sect was just too powerful. Even with the Heavenly Moon Empire in perspective, they were one of the 2 most powerful sections. Even the imperial family of the Heavenly Moon Empire feared the 2 sects slightly. Weiner Yan, it's the same as I've said before. It's best if we keep the Dong'an province as it is right now, said Jian Chen. He did not show any fear. He had already founded his own clan in the Dong'an province, so he naturally could not let an early overgod dominate him. Although he was not interested in controlling the provincial city, he could not remain in the provincial city forever. He would leave someday. As a result, he had to ensure that the Tian Yuan clan possessed a stable position in the Dong'an province before his departure. If that's the case, there's no need for your Tian Yuan clan to remain in the provincial city. Piss off, Weiner Yan became angered. With that, he charged towards Jian Chen with lightning speed. He clenched his right hand into a fist and directly threw it at Jian Chen's face. A gleam of cold light flickered through Jian Chen's eyes. He suddenly stood up and stood in front of Shangguan Moor. Forming a sword with his fingers, he immediately produced a dazzling streak of light to receive Weiner Yan's punch. Chapter 1799, Fighting Weiner Yan Boom. As the sword qi from the tip of Jian Chen's fingers collided with Weiner Yan's fist, a deafening boom rang out. However, Weiner Yan's fist was extremely tough. A powerful layer of laws surrounded it, and he directly used the toughness of his body to take on Jian Chen's sword qi. Jian Chen's sword qi immediately shattered after striking Weiner Yan's fist. It shot into the surroundings as countless tiny strands. Weiner Yan shuddered, and he took a few steps back uncontrollably. A mark had appeared on his fist and blood flowed from there. At the same time, defensive formations immediately appeared in the discussion hall to stop the shockwaves from the conflict. However, Mo Ling and Ando Fu had cast down all of these formations, so their power was limited. They were more than enough to stop the attacks of gods, but they were extremely fragile before the shockwaves from the attacks of over-gods. As soon as the formations appeared, the shockwaves from Jian Chen and Weiner Yan's clash shattered them to pieces. As the shockwaves expanded, all the gods in the hall suffered as a result. Many of their expressions changed, and they staggered backwards from the powerful shockwaves. Blood dripped from the corner of a few people's mouths as they paled, clearly slightly injured now. Only the three late gods were able to remain where they were with their powerful cultivation, but it had forced them to use everything they possessed. The discussion hall shook violently. Even though the discussion hall had been constructed from very tough material, it was unable to stand up to the shockwaves from over-gods without the protection of powerful formations. With a deep rumble, the grand hall directly collapsed, reduced to ruins. Dust was kicked into the air. Jian Chen remained before the patriarch's throne. At that moment, only the part of the structure behind the throne remained fine, while Shengguan Mu'er, who he guarded, was naturally fine as well. However, the faces of both Jian Chen and Shengguan Mu'er had become extremely sunken now. Today was the day when the Tian Yuan clan was holding their founding ceremony. It was a sacred and solemn day, yet the over-god from the Weiner clan actually wanted to start fighting without taking the surroundings into account, destroying the discussion hall of the Tian Yuan clan. His actions were basically a slap to the Tian Yuan clan's face. The gods all looked at the ruins of the building and could not help but glance at each other. On such an important day, someone had actually taken apart the discussion hall of the Tian Yuan clan. They all realized that the Tian Yuan clan and Weiner clan had probably fallen out. Mu'er, leave first. Be careful, Jian Chen said to Shengguan Mu'er gently. However, his face was extremely sunken, and his gaze was as sharp as swords as a powerful killing intent flashed through his eyes. He stared at the fearless Weiner Yan. Be careful too, Shengguan Mu'er said gently from behind Jian Chen before leaving slowly. She knew that Jian Chen had become angered. Weiner Yan gradually became stern. He had been expecting this before, so he did not take everything to heart. Even though Jian Chen was also an over-god, he treated him like nothing because he was a protector of the Earth Spirit sect. Let alone Xian Dou, even if the Divine King wanted to touch him, he would have to consider the consequences properly. As a result, he did not need to fear the Tian Yuan clan at all thanks to the great background he possessed. However, his heart suddenly jumped when he saw the patriarch's sharp glare that was filled with killing intent. He sensed an ill omen and immediately raised his guard secretly. Suddenly, Jian Chen surged into the sky. Powerful and sharp sword qi permeated his surroundings, shining with bright, white light. He seemed to have become a huge sword as he shot away from the city. Weiner Yan, I will be waiting for you outside the city. Show me just what a protector of the Earth Spirit sect has to be able to act so recklessly in my Tian Yuan clan. Jian Chen's voice rang out far and wide. It was audible across the entire city. Weiner Yan could hear the disdain and provocation in Jian Chen's voice. He immediately frowned, and with a cold snort, he followed Jian Chen. 1,000,000 kilometers away from the provincial city, Jian Chen hovered at an altitude of 10,000 kilometers with a sunken face. His white clothes and long hair fluttered in the wind as he stared at Weiner Yan sharply. The presence he gave off was like a sharp sword. It directly plunged into the sky, stirring up the surrounding wind and clouds. Wayner Yen, I will make you understand that my Tianyuan clan is not a place where anyone can act however they like. Even if you're a protector of the Earth Spirit sect, the provincial city is not a place where you can act as you please, Jian Chen said coldly. Wayner Yen hovered in the sky before Jian Chen with his arms crossed. He was fearless as he said coldly, the Dong'an province belongs to my Wayner clan, so it's not up to you to tell me what I can and cannot do in the provincial city. Patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, come at me. Let me see just what you're capable of. Don't make me disappointed. A cold light flickered through Jian Chen's eyes. He took a step in the air, and he covered 1,000 meters just like that. He appeared before Wayner Yen as if he had teleported, extending a finger towards Wayner Yen's forehead. As he extended his finger, an extremely bright streak of light condensed instantly. It radiated with sword qi. The strand of sword qi was clearly much more powerful than the one he had used back in the discussion hall. Jian Chen had only struck out casually to nullify Wayner Yan's attack back in the discussion hall. Only now did he use his true power. Humph, you want to kill me right from the start. I'm not that easy to kill, Wayner Yen said coldly. His arms swelled up rapidly as his muscles bulged. They became extremely tough. His hands had become extremely thick and large as well. His fingers were like metal, filled with power as they flickered with a bronze light. He directly slapped at Jian Chen's sword qi. Seeing Wayner Yan's response, Jian Chen twisted his wrist, and the sword qi that shot towards Wayner Yan's forehead immediately stabbed towards his palm. Chapter 1800, Laws of Strength Ding. This time, when Jian Chen's sword qi stabbed Wayner Yan's hand, there was actually the screeching of metal. Wayner Yan's hand had reached an unimaginable level of toughness. Jian Chen's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at Wayner Yan in surprise. An extremely great force was emitted from Wayner Yan's palm, passing through the sword qi Jian Chen had condensed and directly into his arm. The sword qi immediately dulled. The great force rushed up rapidly and turned his sleeve to tatters. Even he could not help but take a step back from the great force. Laws of strength, Jian Chen murmured as a gleam of light flashed through his eyes. The laws of strength represented the strength of the world. Those who had comprehended this law possessed a body so tough that it had reached an unbelievable level. Most importantly, the laws of strength were also known to be one of the most offensive laws. This was because strength represented an offense, pure offense. Wayner Yen glanced at his huge hand that flickered with bronze light. He saw a deep wound on his powerful hand. Although he had managed to stop Jian Chen's sword qi with his body, his hand was still injured. Wayner Yen was secretly astonished by the wound. He did not use his full strength in the discussion hall before, so it was very natural for the sword qi to injure him earlier. However, he had already unleashed his full strength now. He had even used the battle skill he had learnt from the Earth Spirit sect, which strengthened his hand. Yet, it was still not enough to stop Jian Chen's sword qi. The unique battle skill he had learnt from the Earth Spirit sect was created especially for those who had comprehended the laws of strength. Once they used the battle skill, the toughness of their bodies would be raised to a whole, new, unimaginable level. They could basically be called human weapons. It was rare for anyone at the same level to be their opponent, and they would even be able to kill people at higher cultivation levels. Of course, that was given that they did not encounter any other prodigies with terrifying strength as well. I've underestimated the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. He's stronger than I initially thought, Wayner Yen became stern. From the clash before, he could tell that he was slightly weaker than Jian Chen. In the distance, Xian Dou hovered in the air as he watched the two of them clash. He was secretly amazed, both Wayner Yen and Jian Chen possess extraordinary strength. Most importantly, the laws that they've comprehended are very powerful. No wonder Weiner Yen managed to become a protector of the Earth Spirit sect. It's all because of the laws of strength he has comprehended. However, Weiner Yen is still a little weaker than Jian Chen. Weiner Yan's comprehension of laws is only at early over God, while Jian Chen's comprehension has probably reached mid over God. However, Jian Chen's personal cultivation seems to be weaker. He hasn't managed to reach a balance with the laws he has comprehended. He's probably only a god right now. At the same time, figures flickered in the distance. The gods had all left the provincial city and hurried over here as soon as possible. They wanted to witness the battle between two over-gods. None of them dared to stand as close to the battle as Xian Dou. Instead, they stood very far away at a place where they believed to be safe enough. Grant me strength. Suddenly, Weiner Yen bellowed out. His body began to swell at a visible rate. In just a single moment, he went from being less than 2 meters tall to being a 10-meter tall giant. As his body swelled, his clothes expanded as well, so even though they were wrapped around him tightly, they still managed to cover his tough, burly body. Weiner Yan's skin became bronze after transformation. He was filled with great strength. 5-finger suppression. Weiner Yen called out. The 5 fingers on his right hand seemed to have become mountains as they fell towards Jian Chen with crushing might. Wherever they passed by, space would ripple. A shockingly cold light flickered through Jian Chen's eyes. He wielded his sword Qi as he charged towards Weiner Yan's mountainous fingers with surging might. Boom! With a great rumble, Jian Chen's sword Qi almost sliced off one of Weiner Yan's fingers. Currently, Weiner Yan's 4 other fingers surrounded Jian Chen, while his sword Qi had dispersed after cutting into Weiner Yan's finger. Weiner Yan's face remained the same as if he did not feel pain at all. The 4 other fingers locked down on Jian Chen. Every single one of them was extremely thick, making them seem like 4 pillars that sealed off all the directions Jian Chen could escape in. Daluo sword. Jian Chen formed a seal, and a golden strand of sword Qi immediately condensed above his head. With a flash, the golden sword Qi shot towards the 4 fingers with lightning speed. Boom! 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 Immediately, 4 rumbles rang out. The golden sword Qi was extremely powerful, tearing through the 4 other fingers like a hot knife through butter. Powerful energy permeated the surroundings, wreaking havoc as a storm. The sea of clouds in the sky had been ripped to pieces. However, the golden sword Qi still had not dispersed after chopping off Weiner Yan's 4 other fingers. It continued onwards as a golden streak of light towards Weiner Yan under Jian Chen's control. It moved extremely quickly. Weiner Yan paled slightly. All his fingers were hanging loosely now, and only a flap of skin kept them from falling off. They had run out of power. After transforming, his body had become extremely tough. However, he was still an early over-god after all. Jian Chen's Daluo sword possessed extraordinary power as well, so he was naturally unable to stop it. Weiner Yen clenched his left hand into a fist and directly hurled it out to deal with the incoming sword Qi. The Daluo sword had basically run out of power after severing Weiner Yan's 4 fingers. It immediately collapsed from Weiner Yan's punch, scattering as residual sword Qi. However, just when Weiner Yan had dispersed the sword Qi, another strand of golden sword Qi shot over with lightning speed, punching through his chest in just the blink of an eye. Weiner Yan's body trembled violently. Blood directly spurted from his mouth as his face paled. However, he comprehended the laws of strength after all. Not only was his physical strength shocking, but great power also inhabited his body. He was extremely powerful after transforming. Even though he was injured, his battle prowess was not overly affected. Mountains imprint. Weiner Yen bellowed out. He raised his left hand towards the sky, and a mountain immediately appeared. He grabbed it and smashed it towards Jian Chen heavily. As the mountain fell, it rapidly expanded to the point where it could blot out the sun in a single instance. It became a towering piece of rock as it crushed down on Jian Chen. At the same time, the mountain gave off an invisible energy. All the space in the range of the attack froze. Jian Chen felt his body sink as if he had ended up in quicksand. He was unable to dodge the mountainous attack, so he could only take it head-on. Chapter 1801, Obliteration. This Weiner Yen does have some ability, Jian Chen thought. He had come across quite a few early overgods in God King Duanmu's dwelling, but none of them were on the same level as Weiner Yen. It could be said that Weiner Yen was the strongest early overgod he had encountered so far. He was no weaker than Ling Hogong, or even slightly stronger. This was because the battle skills that Weiner Yen possessed all came from the Earth Spirit sect. They were of high grade and possessed extraordinary might. Tai sword technique. Jian Chen formed a hand seal, and a bright, white light surrounded him instantly. He turned into a sword as he shot into the sky with dazzling light. From afar, he seemed like a comet in reverse. He collided with the huge mountain that blotted out the sun with a seemingly unstoppable force. The mountain was no ordinary mountain but something condensed from Weiner Yan's cultivation as an early overgod and his power of laws through a battle technique. It possessed an extremely terrifying might. Boom! Jian Chen directly collided with the colossal mountain, and a visible ripple of energy gushed out, expanding as a ring. Jian Chen was like a sharp sword, directly driving through the bottom of the mountain. He moved linearly through the mountain with lightning speed. In just a short moment, he pierced through the entire thing, emerging from the highest point. He was like a miniature sun, shining with dazzling light as he hovered in the air. A tiny crack suddenly appeared on the colossal mountain condensed from Weiner Yan's battle skill. The crack immediately caused a chain reaction. More and more cracks appeared, covering the entire mountain very soon. Boom! In the end, the entire mountain collapsed with a deep rumble. It turned into surging energy that wreaked havoc as a storm, while the mountain itself vanished from the space there. Weiner Yen trembled violently, blood spurted from his mouth and into the sky. He became even paler. He raised his head as he stared at Jian Chen in shock. At this moment, Jian Chen had seemingly become a sword. He had already readjusted his judgment of Jian Chen before, yet Jian Chen's strength still managed to surprise him. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is actually so powerful. His cultivation level is clearly lackluster, and he only possesses a slight edge in terms of laws. I thought that even if he would emerge victorious in his battle against Weiner Yen, it would be quite difficult, but looking at it now, Weiner Yen is nowhere close to being Jian Chen's opponent. He has actually been completely suppressed in their battle. Xian Dou stared at Jian Chen in surprise. Clearly, Jian Chen's strength had left him taken aback as well. Moreover, he knew that Jian Chen had not used his full strength today. This was because he had not used his trump card, which he revealed in God King Duanmu's dwelling back then. That move had allowed him to take the lives of early overgods. Looks like the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has the upper hand. Weiner Yen has already become heavily injured, while the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is completely unscathed apart from his tattered sleeve. The patriarch is just too powerful. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan's strength is probably even greater than the overgods of the 5 great provinces. No wonder they showed him so much respect and even sent important members of their clan to congratulate him. The gods of the provincial city all communicated with each other secretly. They were all amazed as they looked at Jian Chen in fear and admiration. A few days before, there was an overgod who fought against Master Chanlong. Could that person be the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan? Suddenly, a spectating god said softly. Everyone present immediately became startled when they heard that, and they all paled soon afterwards. Master Chanlong was a late overgod and a formation master. He possessed extremely great mastery over formations, so many over-god feared him very much. As a result, he was exceedingly famous. If the mysterious expert who fought against Master Qianlong outside the city before was the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, he would simply be too terrifying. At that time, everyone stared at the figure that seemed smaller than an ant in the distant sky. They all wondered about that. No one paid any attention to Weiner Yan at that moment. Suddenly, Jian Chen descended with lightning speed, directly shooting towards Weiner Yan as he shone with dazzling light. Weiner Yan hovered in the air sternly as a giant. Powerful laws of strength condensed in his left hand as he threw it towards Jian Chen. With the punch, space rippled. Pure and great power surged through the space, scattering the origin energy there. The punch was immensely powerful, but Jian Chen was currently using the Tai sword technique. He was far more powerful than usual. Boom! This time, Weiner Yan's punch was obliterated. Before the powerful sword Qi, not only had he lost his hand, but even the flesh and bone of his entire left arm from his wrist rapidly vanished. It turned into minced meat and shattered bone as they fell from the sky. The affected part reached up to his shoulder. Weiner Yan could not help but grunt from the intense pain. His entire left hand had already vanished. Even though his body had been strengthened, he was still unable to resist Jian Chen's attack, so he suffered heavy injuries. Spurt. 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 Jian Chen did not give Weiner Yan any time to catch his breath. He directly struck out, and 4 strands of powerful sword Qi pierced through Weiner Yan's body, making him vomit blood. In the end, he kicked Weiner Yan's chest firmly. Weiner Yan collided with the ground heavily. The entire region of earth shook violently, kicking up soil and dust that covered him up. Jian Chen landed on the ground and slowly made his way towards the deep pit Weiner Yan's descent caused. He directly looked through the dust in the air, clearly looking at Weiner Yan in the pit. Weiner Yan, is this the right to act arrogantly in my Tian Yuan clan you were speaking of? Jian Chen said nonchalantly. His emotionless, icy-cold voice was filled with mockery. Although he had basically used his full strength in the battle against Weiner Yan, even using the Daluo sword and Tai sword technique, he had emerged completely unscathed. Weiner Yan was very powerful. There was barely anyone who could stand against him at the same level of cultivation. However, he was still not enough before Jian Chen. Chapter 1802, Glory of the Tian Yuan clan. Weiner Yan leapt out of the pit he created. He had returned to his original size while his body was covered with vicious wounds. He was covered in blood. In particular, the stab wounds on his body created a chilling sight. Although Weiner Yan had been defeated, he did not appear dispirited at all. Instead, he glared at Jian Chen and said coldly, "Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, don't get cocky too soon. Just because you're able to defeat me this time doesn't represent how powerful you are. Your comprehension of laws was just deeper than mine. If we were at the same level of comprehension, who knows who'll be defeated instead." Weiner Yan continued after pausing for a slight moment. However, Weiner Yan, am not a person who does not admit defeat. You win this time, so our Weiner clan will not interfere with the matters of the Dong'an province. We'll let your Tian Yuan clan rule in power for now. Once I comprehend the laws of strength to mid-over-god, I'll fight you again. At that time, I'd like to see if you can still defeat me. With that, Weiner Yan left as a blur, directly flying towards the provincial city. Weiner Yan's departure left the surrounding gods amazed. Many people were filled with vigor. A great battle between 2 over-gods had unfolded before them. Although the battle did not last for long, they had benefited greatly from watching on. Most importantly, all of them had understood the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan's strength clearly. I never thought that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan would be such a powerful over-god. Huoluji has been far too reckless. He almost doomed the clan, thought the strongest expert of the Hua family. At the same time, he was secretly relieved. Fortunately, the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan did not pursue the matter, or his Hua family would have been in great trouble. Huoluji is still held captive in the Tian Yuan clan. Whatever, I won't beg for his mercy. His life can be decided by fate. I just hope that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan won't direct his rage towards our Hua family just because of Huoluji. At the same time, similar thoughts crossed the mind of the late god from the Dong family. He was filled with regret about how the god of his family had offended the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. I never thought that brother Jian Chen would possess such great mastery over the sword. You really have broadened my horizons. Xian Dou flew over and clasped his fist towards Jian Chen with a smile. You flatter me, Commander Xian. Compared to Commander Xian, my comprehension of the laws of the sword is nothing. Jian Chen clasped his fist back at him and said politely. Xian Dou chuckled aloud. After talking some more with Jian Chen, he said sternly, another over-god has appeared in the Dong'an province. I must report this matter to His Majesty immediately. Brother Jian Chen, I will be bidding farewell to you today. If I have the time in the future, I will definitely come to visit you again. Take care, Commander Xian. My Tian Yuan clan welcomes you at all times, said Jian Chen. Oh right. Brother Jian Chen, never look down on Weiner Yen. Although he's not your opponent, the Earth Spirit sect behind him is quite a significant power. They're so powerful that even our divine kingdom are unable to fend them off if we began fighting. Please be careful, Brother Jian Chen, said Xian Dou. He was extremely stern. He feared the Earth Spirit sect very much. Jian Chen nodded to express that he understood. Soon afterwards, Xian Dou shot off into the distance with great speed. He only left behind a blur. He vanished into the horizon in a single moment. With Xian Dou's departure, the eager gods in the surroundings finally gained the opportunity to speak. They all spoke to Jian Chen politely and with admiration. Back in the provincial city, Jian Chen returned to the Tian Yuan clan and stood before the rubble that used to be the discussion hall. Mo Ling and Ando Fu stood there silently. They would reveal admiration in their gazes towards Jian Chen from time to time. Now, Mo Ling could no longer refer to Jian Chen as a brother like before. Even though Jian Chen treated him exactly the same, he lowered himself to a much lesser position. This was because the concept that power was everything had already become deeply rooted in Mo Ling's mind. He was unable to change it. Behind Jian Chen were the gods from the other clans in the provincial city. They did not return to their clans. Instead, they chose to return to the Tian Yuan clan with Jian Chen. They all remained silent as they stared at the ruined discussion hall. Jian Chen, are you fine? Shangguan Mu'er walked over from afar. She asked in concern as she stared at Jian Chen's tattered sleeve. She did not spectate the previous battle due to her strength. Jian Chen finally smiled warmly as he watched Shangguan Mu'er make her way over slowly. He nodded his head gently and said, I'm fine. With that, he turned towards Mo Ling and Ando Fu and said, Brother Mo Ling, Ando Fu, the destroyed discussion hall must be rebuilt as soon as possible. I will be troubling the two of you with this. Yes, Patriarch, Ando Fu and Mo Ling replied together. Patriarch, we are willing to offer up our power and reconstruct the discussion hall with you, said the gods from the other clans behind him. They expressed their sincerity. Jian Chen naturally turned down the offer. He did not need outsiders to build his discussion hall. The provincial city returned to its previous peaceful state. It was just as busy and prosperous as before as people flowed in and out of the city everywhere. It seemed exactly the same as before from the surface. However, the structure of power in the city had undergone an overwhelming change. The powerful clans no longer controlled the city. Instead, it had become the world of the Tian Yuan clan. The city belonged to the Tian Yuan clan. All the clans had to abide by the various orders that the Tian Yuan clan passed down. Even though the Weiner clan had given birth to an over-god as well, they kept an extremely low profile just like before. Even though their status was nowhere near as great as the Tian Yuan clan, they were also a clan with an over-god, so they possessed extremely great status in the provincial city. No one in the city dared to provoke them. Weiner Yan immediately entered seclusion after his battle against Jian Chen. He no longer bothered himself with the matters of the clan. Chapter 1803, The 5 Regions of the Cloud Plain. At this moment, Weiner Yan sat in a room within the Weiner clan as he recovered from his wounds. Even though he had already ingested healing pills, his injuries recovered at an extremely gradual rate. This was because the power of laws of the sword had contaminated all his wounds. If he did not cleanse the wounds of the power first, he would not be able to heal. His laws of strength had granted him an extremely tough body, and it reached an unbelievable level with the amplification of battle skills. It was even enough to rival Jian Chen's chaotic body. However, his recovery rate was nowhere near as great as the chaotic bodies. I heard that you were only a god when God King Duanmu's dwelling was opened, patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. It has only been a few short years, yet you've become an over-god, and your comprehension of the laws of the sword have even exceeded my comprehension of the laws of strength, reaching the level of mid-over-gods. Looks like you obtained quite the fortune in God King Duanmu's dwelling, or you were hiding your strength on purpose before. Perhaps you broke through to over-god a very long time ago, thought Weiner Yan. He did not feel any envy towards the fortune Jian Chen had obtained. But even if you've obtained some fortune or legacy that allowed your comprehension to skyrocket, it's from a dead god king in the end. I, Weiner Yan, have my own fortune, and that was to become a part of the Earth Spirit sect. Weiner Yan closed his eyes slowly. He lowered his head to glance at his vicious injuries as his lips curled into a faint smile. Great confidence and pride flooded his face as he murmured, "Not only have I joined the Earth Spirit sect, becoming a protector, but my master is a god king as well. Even though my master is not as famous as God King Duanmu, nor is he as powerful as God King Duanmu, who even made it onto the god king's throne, he is still alive. A living god king is still more useful than a dead one no matter what. With my master's guidance and nurturing, my strength will grow rapidly. It won't be an exaggeration at all to describe it as skyrocketing. And apart from my master, even the great ancestor will give me some guidance from time to time. Jian Chen, how can your mere fortune from God King Duanmu's dwelling match up to mine? And even without the guidance of other experts, I only used 35,000 years to become a mid-god. My cultivation speed will only become faster with Master's personal guidance and the resources of the Earth Spirit sect. Moreover, my laws of strength have already arrived at the edge of mid-over-god. In less than 500 years, I'll be able to become a mid-over-god. In just 45,000 years, I'll have become a mid-over-god. Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, I wonder how much time you've used. You can dominate me right now, but who knows if you still can in the future. Weiner Yan revealed a cold smile. He was filled with eagerness for one of those days in the coming 5 centuries. This was because he was confident that as long as he could reach the level of mid-over-god with his comprehension of laws, he would be the victor. A few days later, the discussion hall in the Tian Yuan clan had been rebuilt. Currently, Jian Chen was listening to Mo Ling and Ando Fu's reports in there. Patriarch, the Hua family and the Dong family have offered up 2/3 of their territory. Apart from them, the other clans in the city have offered up parts of their territory as well. Our Tian Yuan clan now possesses half of the territory in the city. Moreover, all the entry fees paid by outsiders will belong to our Tian Yuan clan in the future. The fees and revenue from the various businesses in the city will amount to several 100,000 low-grade divine crystals daily. Has the Wainer clan made any moves recently? Jian Chen asked. The Wainer clan has not, it is just like before, said Ando Fu. After a moment of thought, Jian Chen said from the Patriarch's throne, after deducting the expenses of the clan from the income of divine crystals, split half of it among everyone as remuneration. Give the other half to the madam. Yes, Patriarch, Mo Ling and Ando Fu replied simultaneously. Then Jian Chen looked down. In the hall, there were 4 other gods aside from Mo Ling and Ando Fu. The 4 of them came from the Nanyun clan. Nanyun Tong, how much do you know about the Earth Spirit sect and the Heavenly Moon Empire? Jian Chen asked. Now that the Nanyun clan had joined the Tian Yuan clan, they were technically people of the Tian Yuan clan. Nanyun Tong tidied himself a little and stood up politely. He said with a bow, Patriarch, the Heavenly Moon Empire is one of the 6 ancient empires of the southern region of the Cloud Plain. Every single one of the 6 ancient empires possesses unfathomable strength. It's far beyond what we can imagine. Although I do not know the precise strength of the empires, I do know that our divine kingdom of Ping Tian is only an ant compared to them. They only need to flick a finger to wipe out our divine kingdom. The Heavenly Moon Empire is one of the 6. They're the closest empire to our divine kingdom of Ping Tian. The empire has a total of 3 powerful organizations. One of them is the imperial family, which controls the entire empire. The other 2 are 2 large sects in the Heavenly Moon Empire. They're also extremely powerful, possessing extremely great status in the empire. It's said that even the imperial family must show some respect towards the 2 sections. The Earth Spirit sect is one of them. Does the Heavenly Moon Empire possess primordial realm experts? What about the Earth Spirit sect? And you mentioned earlier that the Heavenly Moon Empire was one of the 6 empires in the southern region of the Cloud Plain. Aside from the southern region, how many more regions are there in the Cloud Plain? Jian Chen asked. Although he had spent a few years on the Cloud Plain already, his understanding of its geography was just too lackluster. Nanyun Tong could not help but be slightly taken aback when he heard Jian Chen's question. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was powerful, but his knowledge was simply too limited. However, Nanyun Tong still explained politely, Patriarch, I do not know whether the Heavenly Moon Empire or the Earth Spirit sect possess primordial realm experts. As for the Cloud Plain, the Cloud Plain is split into 5 major regions. They are the Eastern region Zihao, the Southern region Blood Sun, the Western region Jinjian, the Northern region Shi, and the Central region Everlasting Tian. The 5 regions have been named like this because each region possesses an immovable eternal empire. They are the Eternal Zihao Empire of the Eastern region, the Eternal Blood Sun Empire of the Southern region, the Eternal Jinjian Empire of the Western region, and the Eternal Shi Empire of the Northern region. As for the Central region, it is ruled by the Everlasting Tian Empire. Although there are some ancient empires like the Heavenly Moon Empire in the 4 regions of North, South, East, and West, the 4 eternal empires are supreme existences. They are the true rulers of the region. Only a few divine kingdoms exist in the Central region. There is no other empire apart from the Everlasting Tian Empire. Chapter 1804, Passing on Laws, 1. If that's the case, the eternal empires that control the 4 regions are far more powerful than the Heavenly Moon Empire. Jian Chen laid back on the Patriarch's throne lazily as he tapped a finger on the arm of the throne gently, murmuring to himself. Only now had he finally gained a deeper understanding of the Cloud Plain. Nanyun Tong nodded sternly as he listened to Jian Chen's murmur. He continued, You're right, Patriarch. The 4 eternal empires that control the Eastern, Western, Northern, and Southern regions are on a completely different level of power compared to the Heavenly Moon Empire. I've once heard from an over-god that even if the 6 ancient empires of our southern region work together, they won't be able to shake the Eternal Blood Sun Empire. Ancient empires. Eternal empires, Jian Chen murmured softly as the light in his eyes flickered. He seemed to be in thought. After a moment of silence, he continued with his questions. What about the everlasting Tian Empire in the central region? Veneration immediately flooded Nan Yuntong's face when the everlasting Tian Empire was mentioned. Respect filled his face as he said gruffly, the everlasting Tian Empire of the central region is much more powerful than the four eternal empires. As for by how much, I have no idea, but I do know that the four eternal empires must lower themselves before the everlasting empire. Even with their power, the four great empires have to behave meekly before the everlasting empire. The power of the everlasting Tian Empire made Jian Chen stern and shocked. Afterwards, Jian Chen asked some more questions about the cloud plain before dismissing Nan Yuntong and everyone else. In the blink of an eye, only Jian Chen, Mo Ling, and Ando Fu were left in the grand discussion hall. Mo Ling and Ando Fu looked at Jian Chen, who was sitting on the throne. They seemed to want to say something, but they were hesitating. What is it? You can tell me directly, said Jian Chen. Mo Ling and Ando Fu looked at each other. Afterwards, Mo Ling clasped his fist towards Jian Chen and said, Patriarch, the entire provincial city is under our Tian Yuan clan's control. Without any exaggeration, it's our territory, yet the businesses we control only amount to 40% of the total. You want to expand our businesses in the provincial city? Jian Chen asked. Mo Ling said, a clan requires cultivation resources to become powerful. Right now, our clan's income is only several 100,000 low-grade divine crystals daily. However, half of this comes from the entry fees of people coming into the city, while the remaining amount comes from our businesses. That only amounts to 3,000 or 4,000 low-grade divine crystals. If you look at the other 5 great provincial cities in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, the clans there basically control 80% of the businesses in the cities. The other clans control the remaining 20%. As one of the clans that control a provincial city, we're the one that controls the least businesses. If we increase the number of businesses a little, we'll be able to make an extremely respectable sum daily. Jian Chen shook his head gently. Even if we can increase our income by several 100,000 low-grade divine crystals a day, it's only several dozen high-grade divine crystals after you convert it. There's no need to force all the other clans in the city to the end of their road just for these divine crystals. Moreover, don't forget that there's also a Wainer clan in the provincial city. Jian Chen continued, more importantly, the two of you haven't truly understood why I founded the Tian Yuan clan. I founded the clan only to provide a shelter for my friends and families. I do not wish to rule. Mo Ling and Ando Fu looked at each other. They probably never expected Jian Chen to give them such an answer. After leaving the discussion hall, Jian Chen directly made his way to the Forbidden Grounds because all the people who had come to the Saints' World with him cultivated there. Yenner, how many times do I have to tell you? You don't use the sword like that. Your stab is too slow. Remember, whether it's striking out or pulling it back, you need to be lightning fast. Your sword lacks a certain sharpness, and it also lacks the determination to kill. Just as Jian Chen was making his way towards the Forbidden Grounds, he heard a familiar voice and could not help but look over. He saw Xiu in white clothes, holding a tree branch as she seriously taught Mo Yen how to use the sword. Mo Yen was either not trying, or the sword really did not suit her. Even though she was now at the peak of sainthood, her usage of the sword was still at the level of a beginner's. Jian Chen came to a halt unintentionally before slowly making his way towards Xiu and Mo Yen. Patriarch Jian Chen, why have you come? Mo Yen was not trying at all, so she discovered Jian Chen very quickly. She immediately beamed with joy. Xiu immediately froze up when she heard Mo Yen mention Jian Chen. She slowly put down the branch in her hand and turned around to look at Jian Chen, who had made his way over. Her feelings immediately became rather mixed, and she clasped her fist towards Jian Chen. Xiu greets the patriarch. Currently, Shiyu's feelings were completely mixed. In the past, she even disdained Jian Chen, yet now, he had become the patriarch of a clan. Even the ancestor of the Mo clan, Mo Ling, had become his subordinate. Patriarch Jian Chen, why have you come here? Aren't you busy? Mo Yen was not as polite as Xiu towards Jian Chen. She ran over to him and giggled without any regard for politeness. However, when she glanced at Xiu, who stood to one side with a strange gaze, a mysterious smile appeared on her face. She raised her heels and whispered in Jian Chen's ear, Patriarch Jian Chen, I already know why you're here. You must like Sister Xiu, right? You began liking her long ago. Don't think that I don't know. I'll tell you secretly that Sister Xiu likes you as well. She just can't bring herself to say it. Although Mo Yen spoke very softly, Xiu was a deity after all. Let alone her whispers, even if she wanted to communicate with Jian Chen secretly, she would not be able to hide it from Xiu. As a result, Xiu heard everything that Mo Yen had said, word for word. Xiu's face immediately became bright red. She was both angered and embarrassed as she glared at Mo Yen. She scolded, Mo Yen, what are you blabbering about? Stop making up lies. Jian Chen was amused when he Mo Yan's serious expression. He knocked Mo Yan's forehead and laughed, Mo Yan, you can't say these things anymore in the future, or I'll ground you and stop you from going outside anymore. Chapter 1805, Passing on Laws, 2, Mo Yen immediately became unhappy. She pouted her lips, fine then. I want to help you, yet you don't even appreciate it and want to ground me. So much for my good intentions. Mo Yen was no longer in the mood to learn the sword anymore. She picked up her sword and left. Jian Chen shook his head helplessly as he watched Mo Yen walked away. Afterwards, he looked at Xiu, and his eyes gradually deepened. He said, Miss Xiu also seems to have comprehended the laws of the sword, right? Patriarch, I do indeed comprehend the laws of the sword. Xiu straightened herself and answered honestly. Jian Chen's status was completely different from before, so she clearly felt a little unnatural before Jian Chen. However, perhaps due to Mo Yan's words, Xiu avoided Jian Chen's gaze slightly. Her face remained slightly flushed as well. Show me what you've comprehended, Jian Chen asked calmly, completely ignoring the redness on Xiu's face. Xiu was surprised. She seemed to realize that Jian Chen wanted to guide her personally. A strange light could not help but appear in her eyes. Jian Chen's laws of the sword had reached the level of overgods, while overgods were insurmountable existences in Xiu's eyes. If she could receive the personal guidance of an overgod who had comprehended the laws of the sword, it would be extremely beneficial to her own comprehension. She might even be able to become a god in a single stroke. Xiu immediately became slightly excited. However, she sucked in a breath soon afterwards and forcefully calmed herself down. Suddenly, Xiu emitted a sharp sword qi. A dazzling sword had appeared in her hand. Its light surged as she slashed towards a fake mountain nearby with her full strength. This attack contained Xiu's greatest comprehension of the laws of the sword. Through the might of her sword, she demonstrated her comprehension of the laws of the sword to Jian Chen. Boom! With a great rumble, the fake mountain was not damaged at all after withstanding Xiu's most powerful strike. After all, a layer of formations protected the entire Tian Yuan clan. Although the formations were not enough to stop attacks from overgods, they were not something that a late deity like Xiu could destroy. A gleam of light shone through Jian Chen's eyes. From that single attack, Jian Chen could tell what Xiu lacked in her comprehension of the laws of the sword. Xiu, watch closely, Jian Chen called out. Using his fingers as a sword, he emitted a powerful streak of light and directly stabbed towards Xiu's head. As Jian Chen stabbed out, a surging sword qi immediately permeated the surroundings. Xiu sensed it the most intensely. In Xiyu's eyes, she seemed to have moved into a sea filled with sword qi that clustered densely all around her. Endless sword qi surrounded her. Every single strand of sword qi there seemed to represent a law of the world, and the countless sword qi seemed to form the laws of the world. At the very beginning, Xiu was surprised, but she understood very soon. Jian Chen was passing on his own laws. He was using this method to invoke his comprehensions of the laws of the sword, displaying it to her in the simplest fashion possible. Xiu could not help but close her eyes. Looking could not allow her to understand the laws that Jian Chen was passing on to her. She had to comprehend it using her heart. If she comprehended some of the mysteries there, it was extremely likely for her to become a god. However, if she failed, Jian Chen's attempt this time would be completely useless and a waste of time. Comprehending the laws of the world was not as simple as cultivation. To cultivate, a person only needed to ingest a few heavenly resources, and they would be able to increase their cultivation with the energy within. On the other hand, there were no shortcuts to comprehending the laws of the sword. It would all be up to the individual. Even after ingesting heavenly resources that assisted comprehension like comprehension tea, personal comprehension was still required to understand the mysteries within there. It would not directly increase a person's comprehension of laws. The sword qi from Jian Chen's fingertips stopped before Xiyu's forehead, and the sword qi slowly dispersed. Jian Chen pulled back his hand, and he stared at Xiyu, who currently had her eyes closed. Around half an hour later, Xiyu finally opened her eyes. There was a sliver of understanding in her eyes. "Do you understand?" At the same time, Jian Chen asked her. Xiyu looked over and saw Jian Chen standing next to a pond nearby with his back towards her. There was a gentle breeze that blew his hair around while his white robes fluttered gently as well. He seemed slightly otherworldly. Xiyu's eyes suddenly narrowed as she stared at Jian Chen's back. Somehow, she seemed to sense an indomitable presence from Jian Chen's back. "I understood a little, but there's still a lot I don't understand," Xiyu said gently as her emotions were mixed. Jian Chen slowly turned around and stared at Xiyu with reassurance. He said, "Since you've understood a little, it means that your affinity for comprehension is extremely great. It won't be a waste for me to guide you." Suddenly, Jian Chen pointed a finger towards the sky. A huge streak of light shot out directly towards the sky. At the same time, an even more powerful sword intent radiated from his body, enveloping the entire Tian Yuan clan in a single instance. The sword intent did not just stop there. Instead, it rapidly expanded throughout the city with lightning speed. Eventually, it enveloped the entire city, shocking everyone around. What powerful sword intent! It's from the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. What is he doing? This is definitely the laws at the level of Overgod. It's the Overgod from the Tian Yuan clan. Whether it was the gods of other clans or the people who had settled down in the city temporarily, they all gazed in the direction of the Tian Yuan clan in shock. Mo Ling and Ando Fu hurried over within the Tian Yuan clan as well. They watched from the distance as Jian Chen pointed his finger towards the sky as he stood next to the pond. Shock filled their faces as well. Jian Chen had already closed his eyes, connecting himself with the laws of the sword in the surroundings as best as possible. He maintained his posture for around 10 minutes before finally opening his eyes. At that moment, his pupils had lost their original black. They shone with dazzling, silver-white light. They seemed as bright as lanterns when the white eyes and pupils fused together. At that moment, Jian Chen slowly guided his finger through the air. As his finger moved, the formations on the fake mountain in the distance immediately collapsed. A huge slash gradually appeared there. The mark on the fake mountain grew longer and longer as Jian Chen's hand moved. It flickered with light, and it seemed to contain a mysterious power. A sliver of exhaustion appeared on Jian Chen's face after creating the mark, as if leaving behind the slash on the fake mountain had taken a great toll on him. The slash contains all my comprehension of the laws of the sword. It'll just depend on your affinity for comprehension as for how long it will take you to become an over-god, Jian Chen said to Shiyu before leaving step by step with exhaustion. He directly made his way to the forbidden grounds. Shiyu stared at Jian Chen's back as she felt greatly touched. Her lip quivered gently. She seemed to want to ask Jian Chen why he wanted to help her like this, but in the end, she held back her desire to do so. She understood that even many disciples could not enjoy something like passing on laws, as it simply took too great of a toll on the person who was passing on the laws. Even when a few masters would use a method like this for their disciples, the masters would only pass on a portion of their laws. However, according to Jian Chen's words, he seemed to have engraved all his comprehension of the laws of the sword there. If all the mysteries in the slash could be comprehended, she would directly be able to become an over-god. Chapter 1806. A God King's treasure. Mo Ling and Ando Fu naturally saw Jian Chen leave behind a mark for comprehending the laws of the sword for Shiyu as they were standing to one side. They had their own thoughts about the matter. Currently, Mo Ling's emotions could only be described as overjoyed, while Ando Fu was filled with envy. He sighed to himself. Just why did his Ando clan not possess a great woman like Shiyu? If Yu'er can end up marrying the patriarch, it would be a joyous matter, thought Mo Ling. He was filled with anticipation. Although he knew that Jian Chen was already married, having several wives was very common in the saints' world. As a matter of fact, a woman having many husbands in the saints' world was common as well. Currently, in the forbidden grounds of the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Chen, Shangwan Mu'er, Xiao Jin, Xiao Ling, the White Tiger, Nubis, Rui Jin, Hong Lian, Heiyu, Xiong Zhong, and the others from the world of forsaken saints had all gathered together. Alright, this is all I know about the saints' world so far. From today onwards, you can cultivate in the Tian Yuan clan in peace. This clan was founded for you in the first place, Jian Chen told everyone all he knew about the saints' world as he sat on the ground. Since they had come to this world, they had to understand everything important about it. Jian Chen, have you heard any news of our dragon and phoenix clans? Rui Jin asked. Anticipation filled his eyes. The three of them had assisted and protected Jian Chen with everything they had back on the Tian Yuan continent just so that they could find their clansmen. This was because they had come across the winged tiger god from the ancient times back in the lower world. The winged tiger god had told them before that if they wanted to find their clansmen, they had to follow Jian Chen. Jian Chen was their only hope for reuniting with their clansmen. It was exactly because of this that they treated Jian Chen's life with even more importance than their own back on the Tian Yuan continent. Senior Rui Jin, don't worry. Although I haven't heard anything about the two clans right now, please believe me. I will devote myself to finding your clansmen, Jian Chen swore to Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and Heiyu. Hong Lian was wearing her fire-red dress. Her face darkened as she sighed gently. Don't get too optimistic about our clansmen, Rui Jin. Back when our clansmen followed the beast god up to the higher world, the strongest of them were only saint emperors. It's probably very difficult for them to survive with such weak strength. We don't even know if our clansmen are still around or not after so much time. I believe that they're still around because they followed the ancient winged tiger god up to the higher world, Jian Chen said confidently because he understood that the winged tiger god from the ancient times was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. I hope so, Hong Lian said softly. Only after listening to Jian Chen's explanations did she understand the vastness of the saints' world. Just the cloud plain could be described boundless. And the saints' world had a total of 49 great plains and 81 great planets. Big brother, I miss Master so much, Xiao Ling said while choking back her tears. Deep yearning filled her eyes. Jian Chen immediately comforted her before conversing casually with everyone else. Afterwards, everyone dispersed. Apart from Xiao Ling and Xiao Jin, who had run out eagerly, everyone entered seclusion. Jian Chen entered a room. Currently, he sat in the center of the slightly gloomy place and held a space ring in his hand. Jian Chen examined the space ring and murmured, "It's time for me to look through what is left." The space ring was the one that Fairy Hao Yu had removed from God King Duanmu's remains. She had given it to him when they parted before. As soon as Jian Chen sent his senses into the space ring, he became stunned by the vast space inside. It was nothing like a space ring. The space in there was virtually a miniature world. Without any doubt, this space ring could hold the entire Tianyuan continent. Jian Chen expanded the senses of his soul to envelope as much space as he could. He discovered a large number of materials, heavenly resources, and scrolls in the space ring. He had even come across a few bottles for pills, but most of them were empty. There was only a bare minimum number of divine crystals. Jian Chen knew that Fairy Hao Yu had basically used up all the divine crystals and the pills that were helpful to her when she condensed her body. As a result, the lack of divine crystals did not surprise him at all. Jian Chen took out all the scrolls first. After tidying through them, he discovered that the scrolls possessed some cultivation methods and various battle skills left behind by God King Duanmu, as well as his personal notes for cultivation and so on. These were not the cultivation methods and battle skills God King Duanmu used. Instead, he had slowly accumulated them across his life. There were even 2 cultivation methods created by God King Duanmu, but they only reached over God unfortunately, making them incomplete. There were over a dozen battle skills, and they were all of an extremely high grade. Some of them would even be extremely beneficial to God Kings. The battle skills suited people who had comprehended various laws, except for the sword. Next, Jian Chen looked at the notes about cultivation God King Duanmu had left behind. There were a total of 3 scrolls of notes. One scroll described the laws of space, while the other 2 were both devoted to the laws of the sword. Jian Chen ignored the notes on the laws of space, as they were useless for him right now. Instead, he looked at the notes on the laws of the sword. After just flipping through it, he beamed happily and immediately put it away like a treasure. Fantastic! With these 2 scrolls of notes, my way of the sword will be close to breaking through to the partial achievement of sword spirit. Jian Chen was extremely excited. God King Duanmu's laws of the sword could not exceed his own by too much, unlike the Nirvanic immortal exalts. As a result, God King Duanmu's notes were useful to Jian Chen. 10,000-year God origin pills. Soul recovery pills. Afterwards, Jian Chen looked at the pills, and he immediately beamed. There were many types of pills, with many that he had not even heard about. However, there just happened to be ones that garnered his interest. There were a total of 5 bottles of 10,000-year God origin pills. Each bottle possessed exactly 10 pills, so there were 50 pills in total. There were 3 whole bottles of soul recovery pills. Each bottle also possessed 10 pills, amounting to 30. There are actually 30 soul recovery pills here. At that moment, Jian Chen became as joyful as he had ever felt. He no longer had to worry too much about using his strands of profound sword chi now that he had these pills. However, he also understood that as his strength increased and his soul grew stronger, his need for soul recovery pills would grow. Just a single pill was enough to recover the power of an early over-god soul, but after becoming a mid-over-god, one would probably need 2, 3, or even 4 pills to fully recover. As for God Kings, they would need as many as several dozens. Chapter 1807, Secluded Cultivation. Putting aside the 10,000-year God origin pills and the soul recovery pills, there were 4 pills that Jian Chen had never seen before. He did not know about their exact usage. Apart from them, there were over 20 empty bottles. From the marks on the bottles, Jian Chen could easily tell that they had been opened recently and Fairy Hao Yu had ingested all the pills inside. There were quite a few heavenly resources left in the ring as well. The most eye-catching one was a ginseng that was completely golden and 3 meters in length. What a large ginseng! It basically looks like a small tree. Moreover, the ginseng is completely golden as if it has been plated with gold. I can tell with a single glance that it's extremely precious. Jian Chen could not help but sigh in amazement. He had seen quite a few ginseng on the Tianyuan continent, but he had never seen one so big. Apart from the golden ginseng, there were even more heavenly resources and medicinal herbs. They were all the type that Jian Chen could not name. However, without a doubt, they were nothing ordinary. Violet scale stone. Master, there's violet scale stone. At this moment, Jian Chen heard the voices of the sword spirits. What's violet scale stone? Jian Chen was slightly surprised and immediately looked around. Master, violet scale stone is a material for forging weapons. It has already reached the 9th grade of the immortal tier, making it one of the crucial materials for forging the twin swords. Master, the violet scale stone is 30 kilometers ahead of you, Ziying told Jian Chen. Jian Chen immediately expanded his senses and indeed, he found a huge piece of rock that was 3 meters wide at the place that Ziying had mentioned. The rock was completely violet and possessed a strange patterning, making it seem like scales. This must be the violet scale stone. Jian Chen studied the piece of rock. He knocked it with his hand gently out of curiosity. He could tell just how tough the rock was from touching it. Even if he used his full strength, he would probably struggle to leave behind a mark. It really is a 9th grade immortal tier material, Jian Chen marveled. Master, there's a piece of profound lightning rock 20 kilometers to the west. It's also a 9th grade immortal tier material. Fantastic. I never thought that we'd find 2 materials at once, Qing Sua said excitedly. Jian Chen immediately found the profound lightning rock. Just like the violet scale stone, it was a type of mineral. Lightning flickered on its surface, and it would produce sparks from time to time. Moreover, the electricity from the rock was extremely dangerous. Even Saint Emperors would basically be doomed if they came in contact with it. I wonder who would touch the rock if I threw it onto the Tianyuan continent, Jian Chen could not help but wonder. Ziying, Qing Sua, have a look again closely. See if there are any other materials for forging the swords nearby, Jian Chen said to the sword spirits. There was a huge pile of materials that Jian Chen did not recognize in God King Duanmu's space ring. Only the sword spirits knew whether they could be used for refining swords. All right. We'll have a look closely, replied Qing Sua before looking around seriously again. However, they failed to find a third material that could be used to forge the twin swords. There were quite a few materials for forging swords. As a matter of fact, there were many of them. However, the grade of the materials was just too low, so they could only give up on them. It's still quite the surprise to be able to find 2. We can slowly collect the other materials later, Jian Chen said in satisfaction before putting the space ring away. Afterwards, Jian Chen called for Mo Ling and gave him a portion of the cultivation methods and battle skills. He used them as the cultivation methods that the Tianyuan clan could provide. Once a member of the clan had made great contributions to the clan, they could use their merit to exchange for the cultivation methods. Jian Chen left the better, remaining cultivation methods and battle skills on a stone table in the Forbidden Ground so that the people from the Tianyuan continent could choose whatever they wanted once they emerged from seclusion. Afterwards, Jian Chen told Mo Ling and Ando Fu about how he wanted the clan to develop in the future before leaving all the matters of the clan to them. On the other hand, he entered seclusion. Jian Chen sat in the room as the huge, golden ginseng he had found in God King Duanmu's space ring was placed beside him. Not only had he found 50 10,000-year God origin pills in God King Duanmu's space ring this time, but he had also found a large number of heavenly resources, including the golden ginseng. A supreme god king had collected all these heavenly resources, so they were of extremely high grade. The heavenly resources he had collected from the Xianhuang microcosm could not match up to them. As a result, he wanted to see if he could reach the 11th layer of the chaotic body through these heavenly resources and the 10,000-year god origin pills. The medicinal effects of the golden ginseng will probably be very violent and powerful. But my chaotic body has already reached the 10th layer, so it's naturally not a problem for me to withstand it, Jian Chen murmured before directly ripping off a root from the ginseng and wolfing it down. Immediately, droplets of golden fluid rolled down from the corner of his mouth with energy. As the energy radiated from the golden juice, the entire room became filled with energy. The only problem was that the energy was extremely powerful and violent. Many heavenly resources possessed overbearing and tough effects, so very few people ever consumed them directly. They were basically all refined into pills, and their brutality was removed by combining them with other medicinal herbs so that their effects were gentler. Probably only other cultivators who possessed a body as tough as Jian Chen's would be able to wolf down heavenly resources as recklessly as him. Jian Chen used his hand to wipe the corner of his mouth and swallowed all the juice. He did not let a single droplet go to waste. As the root reached his stomach, they exploded within him like gunpowder. Wild and brutal energy wreaked havoc within him, rampaging through his flesh and organs. Originally, Jian Chen believed he could easily endure the medicinal effects of the golden ginseng with the toughness of his 10th layer chaotic body. However, only now did he suddenly realize that he had underestimated the ginseng too much. The effects were so violent that Jian Chen had never seen anything like it before. Jian Chen's body shook wildly as he furrowed his brows tightly. The pain was so intense that even his face had paled slightly. What wild energy, Jian Chen thought. He gritted his teeth as he devoted himself to refining the energy. It was an extremely arduous process for Jian Chen to refine the energy within the root. With his ability, he spent an entire month to completely refine all the energy. Jian Chen did not stop. He pulled off a second root, and without even frowning, he directly threw it into his mouth. Chapter 1808, 15 years Jian Chen refined the tremendous energy within the huge, golden ginseng. It was an extremely long and arduous process. He required a very long time to wear away the brutal energy before being able to transform it into chaotic force. After all, the tremendous energy within the golden ginseng was not as gentle as the energy within the violet cloud peaches that could be easily absorbed without any difficulty at all. Jian Chen lost track of time as cultivation was timeless. He devoted himself to cultivation. Near him lay the 3-meter-long golden ginseng. However, the ginseng was only half of its initial size now. Jian Chen had devoured all its roots and refined into tremendous energy, so the chaotic Niden in his dantian gradually grew. 5 years passed in a flash. The golden ginseng had vanished from the gloomy room while Jian Chen held the last piece of fist-sized ginseng flesh. After sighing, he shoved the last piece of ginseng flesh into his mouth before closing his eyes and devoting himself to refining its energy. As the last piece of ginseng flesh reached Jian Chen's stomach, he finally devoured the entire huge ginseng after 5 whole years. The energy within the golden ginseng was enough for my chaotic Niden to grow from the size of a soybean to the size of a thumb. The energy required for any progress after I've reached the 10th layer of the chaotic body has increased by so many times. I wonder if the other heavenly resources from God King Duanmu's space ring and the 10,000-year God origin pills will be enough for me to reach the 11th layer or not, Jian Chen thought. Even though early over-gods posed no threat to him, and there was no need for him to even fear mid-over-gods with his current strength, he was not a late over-god's opponent. He had managed to emerge victorious against the late over-god master Chanlong because the latter was a formation master. He was skilled at using formations against his opponents and not in open battles. Hence, Jian Chen managed to achieve a close victory against him. I've gained a stable footing in the Dong'an province now, but there are still some people who can threaten me in the divine kingdom of Pingtian like Yang Kai, who has reached late over God, and the commander of the Royal Divine Army, Xian Do. I would not be their opponents, as my 10th layer chaotic force is only equivalent to God's. If my chaotic body can progress some more, reaching the 11th layer, my cultivation would directly be on par with overgods according to the sword spirits. By then, will there still be any more overgods that are my opponent? The only people I will have to fear will probably be god kings, thought Jian Chen. Jian Chen had gained a detailed understanding of the corresponding cultivation levels for the future layers of the chaotic body in the past few years. The 11th layer of the chaotic body was equivalent to Xian immortals in the immortals world, and Xian immortals were equivalent to overgods in the saints world. If he reached the 12th layer, he would be equivalent to the 9 heavenly Xian immortals of the immortals world. 9 heavenly Xian immortals were equivalent to god kings in the saints world. The 12th layer was also the peak of the partial achievement of the chaotic body. Surpassing the 12th layer and reaching the 13th would be equivalent to reaching the major achievement. The chaotic body had a total of 18 layers, and the 13th to the 18 layers were all a part of the major achievement. The 13th layer of the chaotic body was equivalent to immortal monarchs in the immortals world, which were equivalent to infinite primes in the saints world. Although the cultivator's strength would increase substantially with each layer of the chaotic body, the difference between minor cultivation levels in the primordial realm was also extremely great. As a result, once he reached the 13th layer of the chaotic body, his strength would progress very slowly. Below the primordial realm, each layer of the chaotic body would be equivalent to a major cultivation realm or even several of them. However, the 13th layer, 14th layer, and 15th layer would all correspond to infinite primes due to the huge disparity between each cultivation level. The 16th, 17th, and 18th layers would correspond to chaotic primes of the saints world. However, due to the power of the chaotic body, people who had reached the 18th layer would be able to hold their ground against regular grand primes, even though they were only peak chaotic primes technically. Beyond the 18th layer was the great perfection of the chaotic body, which only existed in the legends. No one had ever managed to reach the great perfection of the chaotic body, including the few people with the innate chaotic body throughout the history of the immortals world. I have to reach the 11th layer as soon as possible, Jian Chen made up his mind. After devouring the golden ginseng, he immediately removed other heavenly resources from God King Duanmu's space ring and wolfed them down. Who knew whether Wayne or Yen would ask for other experts of the Earth Spirit sect to move against him now that they had fallen out? As a result, he always felt pressured. Only when he became even more powerful could he be free from worry. A few decades were less than a split second to the Dong'an province that had already existed on the land of the Cloud Plain for several 100,000 years. Now, Jian Chen had already been in seclusion for 15 years. Although Jian Chen never appeared within the clan during this period of time, the impression he had left in the hearts of the other clans in the city remained the same. The name of the Tian Yuan clan had completely spread across the divine kingdom of Pingtian, so everyone knew that a Tian Yuan clan had appeared in the Dong'an province. Moreover, their patriarch had defeated the overgod of the Wainer clan, and the clan had claimed the entire province as their land. It was to the point where even the royal capital would not interfere with anything that happened in there. As a matter of fact, quite a few people heard about the Tian Yuan clan of the Dong'an province in the neighboring countries as well, leading to quite a few people feeling admiration for them. The Tian Yuan clan had become the insurmountable existence within the Dong'an province now. As for Mo Ling and Ando Fu, they basically managed all the affairs in the clan as Jian Chen was in seclusion. As a result, they had become authoritative members of the clan, and they were people who could shake up the entire province wherever they went. Chapter 1809, Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit. 1. As Weiner Yen was also in seclusion, the Weiner clan had kept an extremely low profile in the provincial city across the years. The two gods of the Weiner clan waited for Weiner Yen to emerge quietly. Due to the miserable outcome of the fight between the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan and Weiner Yen, the two gods did not dare to expand their territory recklessly during the time that Weiner Yen was in seclusion. Clearly, they feared the Tian Yuan clan. However, the Weiner clan still became famed within the Dong'an province and the divine kingdom of Pingtian. However, their radiance had been suppressed by the Tian Yuan clan, so barely anyone paid any attention to them in the provincial city. The strength of the Tian Yuan clan increased rapidly over the 15 years. The number of gods they possessed had reached 12. Apart from Mo Ling, Ando Fu, and the 4 gods from the Nanyun clan, 5 other gods had joined the Tian Yuan clan as elders. The last god was a woman who had not been cultivating for particularly long, Xiu. Xiyu's talent was extremely great, and she had only cultivated for a few mere millennia. Even without any help, becoming a god was only a matter of time with her talent, and it would not take too long. After Jianchun left behind passing on his laws, basically engraving all his comprehension at sword spirit into it, Xiu became a god much faster. On a certain day 15 years later, Jianchun slowly opened his eyes in the forbidden grounds of the Tian Yuan clan. With a flip of his hand, he removed an unknown heavenly resource from his space ring. Jianchun stared at the heavenly resources that seemed very standard calmly before shaking his head gently. He sighed, "I can't consume anymore. I've already consumed more than a dozen over the past years I spent cultivating. My body has developed resistance, so any benefit I get from consuming more heavenly resources will diminish. However, I do have 5 drops of liquid lime. Liquid lime has the wondrous effect of cleansing the body of residues from consuming too many pills and the resistance developed from using too many heavenly resources," Jianchun murmured gently. He immediately took out his bottle of liquid lime from his space ring. He removed the cap and poured a droplet into his mouth without any hesitation at all. Jianchun immediately felt a cool sensation throughout his entire body when the liquid lime reached his stomach. As the cool sensation rapidly spread, he felt an indescribable comfort, and even his pores opened up. He could feel that the resistance he had developed to heavenly resources was slowly dispersed with the permeation of the cool sensation. Moreover, Jianchun felt his soul become extremely clear. Vaguely, the profound laws of the world seemed to have become even clearer in his eyes. The effects were similar to drinking comprehension tea. Not only could the liquid lime cleanse the body of any pill residues or developed resistances, but it also possessed some effects like the comprehension tea. However, the effects of the liquid lime were clearly much less potent compared to comprehension tea. Several hours later, the cool sensation from the liquid lime finally receded slowly, while Jianchun's resistance to heavenly resources had finally been completely eradicated. Liquid lime really is good stuff, Jianchun could not help but sigh in amazement. Afterwards, without any hesitation, he immediately consumed more heavenly resources to increase his strength as quickly as possible. Time passed silently, and unknowingly, Jianchun had consumed all the heavenly resources in God King Duanmu's space ring. As the heavenly resources were all high-grade, the benefits they granted were far greater than the high-grade divine crystal mine Jianchun previously absorbed. His chaotic Niden grew larger and larger. Jianchun did not stop because of that. He took out 5 bottles from his space ring again. To no surprise, they held the 10,000-year God origin pills. A single 10,000-year God origin pill was equivalent to 10,000 years of cultivation. That would mean 50 pills equated to 500,000 years worth of cultivation. I wonder if these 50 pills will be enough for me to reach the 11th layer of the chaotic body, Jianchun thought. He removed the bottle cap and ingested 5 pills in a single stroke. He was already able to endure the brutal energy within the God Origin pills when he was still at the 9th layer of the chaotic body, so now that he had reached the 10th layer, they posed even less of a threat to him. After some time, Jian Chen had consumed all 50 pills. When he looked inside his dantian, Jian Chen was filled with helplessness when he saw the size of his chaotic Niden. It was almost the size of a fist. All the heavenly resources from God King Duanmu's space ring and the 50 God Origin pills were still not enough for him to reach the 11th layer of the chaotic body. Aside from the 10 blocks of high-grade divine crystal from the Divine King, I only have a few pieces of supreme-grade divine crystals from God King Duanmu's space ring. But I feel that even if I absorb them all, it still won't be enough for my chaotic body to break through, thought Jian Chen. The light in his eyes flickered in thought as he sat in the room. A while later, Jian Chen made up his mind. His eyes became determined, and he suddenly stood up, making his way out of the room. I never thought that I've already cultivated for 50 years, Jian Chen could not help but sigh as he stared at the sky while standing outside. Mo Ling, Ando Fu, come here immediately. Jian Chen immediately summoned Mo Ling and Ando Fu after leaving the Forbidden Grounds. Very soon, Mo Ling and Ando Fu arrived before Jian Chen at the same time. However, there were 10 other gods aside from the two of them. Greetings to the Patriarch. A total of 12 gods stood before Jian Chen and bowed towards him. Jian Chen glanced past them and discovered that there were a few people he had never seen before among them. He immediately understood them to be outsiders that had joined the Tian Yuan clan. Afterwards, Jian Chen looked at the white-clothed Shiyu. He could not help but smile faintly, and he said in some relief, "Shiyu, you really haven't disappointed me. You've become a god in such a short amount of time." Chapter 18:10, Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit, 2, It's all thanks to the Patriarch's kindness. If it were not for the Patriarch's assistance, would have never been able to become a god so soon. Shiyu clasped her fist towards Jian Chen as the light in her eyes flickered. Unknowingly, her opinion of Jian Chen had changed silently. Jian Chen was quite indifferent to how Shiyu behaved towards him. After nodding slightly, he looked towards Mo Ling and Ando Fu. He said to the two of them, "I'm going to be leaving for some time. During this period, you two will keep up the management of the clan. If there's anything important, crush this jade talisman." As he said that, he passed a talisman to Mo Ling. The talisman contained a sliver of the power from his soul. Once the talisman was shattered, he would sense it. "Yes, Patriarch." Mo Ling stowed the jade talisman away carefully. Shiyu trembled undetectably when she heard that Jian Chen would be leaving. At that moment, she felt dispirited for some reason. Afterwards, Jian Chen told the people some more things before directly leaving the Tian Yuan clan. Shangguan Mu'er and the others were all in secluded cultivation within the Forbidden Grounds. He did not take anyone with him. He was moving alone this time. Only the 7-colored heaven-devouring beast was an exception. It remained within the bright moon divine hall, lying gently on Kaiya's casket like a royal guard. Sigh. Kaiya, I wonder when you'll awaken. However, I have completely no clue just what has happened to her. I'll have to ask the over-gods to have a look once I go to the royal capital in the future. Let's see whether they know a method to cure Kaiya, Jian Chen thought. He had inspected Kaiya's conditions closely and many times in the past. She clearly was not injured. He had even used the sap from amethyst spiritual bamboo on her. The sap from the bamboo was something for healing injuries to the soul. Even if Kaiya's soul was severely damaged, a single drop would be more than enough for her to make a full recovery with her strength. However, the sap had been like a drop in an ocean when he used it on her. It did not have any effects at all, making Jian Chen very confused. Even the sap from amethyst spiritual bamboo was useless on Kaiya. There are only two possibilities for this. One is that the sap of amethyst spiritual bamboo is not enough for Kaiya's soul to be healed, while the second one is that Kaiya's soul is not injured at all, Jian Chen murmured. He naturally believed it was the second reason. As a result, he was helpless about Kaiya's current predicament. Before long, Jian Chen arrived in front of God King Duanmu's dwelling again. Even though it had already been several decades since the commotion the dwelling caused, the place was still extremely busy and continued to attract many cultivators from distant lands. As a result, many people entered and exited the place basically every day. Although the over-gods had taken away all the treasures within the dwelling several decades ago, there were still objects that interested deities and gods within the place. In particular, godhood experts who comprehended the laws of the sword treated the empty dwelling as a great treasure. This was because there were also sword slashes left behind by God King Duanmu. It was exactly because of these slashes that the people in the surrounding divine kingdoms who comprehended the laws of the sword and the laws of space had all gathered here. There were also quite a few Origin Realm cultivators among them. As a matter of fact, there were even a few Saint Emperors who used the sword as their preferred weapon who had come to try their luck. They hoped to come across the fortune that would allow them to rise up. As a result, the current dwelling seemed rather bustling. Jian Chen erased his presence and entered the dwelling as well. He heard various sounds as soon as he entered the dwelling. There were already quite a few people outside, but there were even more inside the dwelling. It was extremely busy like a noisy market. Jian Chen made his way towards the depths of the dwelling with much familiarity, and he arrived in the dwelling of God King Duanmu's disciple very soon. The place was filled with people as well. There were even more people in the sword comprehension building. Basically, everyone stared at the sword slash that God King Duanmu had left within the building personally. They tried their hardest to comprehend it and benefit. Jian Chen shook his head gently when he saw the slash within the building. He could tell with a single glance that the slash had lost its mysteriousness and charm. This was because the slashes God King Duanmu left behind could only be comprehended a certain number of times. Once the number exceeded the limit, the slash would lose all its charm and become ordinary. It would be very difficult to benefit from it no matter how it was studied. Jian Chen did not stay there for very long. He continued onwards to the very depths. Very soon, he arrived before the 3 stone huts. Aside from the first hut that had already collapsed, the 2 other huts remained standing. People would enter and exit from time to time. However, there were quite a few people who had come into the dwelling for the first time outside of the 2 huts. They were hesitating over which hut to enter. Quick, go to the 3rd hut. There's someone who has become a god successfully in the 3rd hut again. At this moment, a voice rang out nearby. When they heard the voice, the cultivators that had gathered there immediately fell into a commotion. What? Someone has broken through again in the 3rd hut, I really do envy them. The 3rd hut has given birth to over a dozen gods, quick, enter the 3rd hut. The 3rd hut is where God King Duanmu passed away. The comprehension of laws from his past life remains there. The comprehensions have become very thin now, reaching a level that we can comprehend. Cultivating in there will increase your chances of becoming a god drastically. What are you hesitating for? Let's go to the 3rd hut. We might be able to break through there as well and become gods. Immediately, the hesitating cultivators all rushed towards the 3rd hut. Jian Chen took a step forwards and made his way towards the stone huts as well. However, he did not go to the 3rd hut but the 2nd. After making it through the entrance, the world around Jian Chen opened up. He had entered another world. The place seemed like an extremely large world. It was filled with endless mountain ranges, and each of them stood up like swords, directly reaching towards the sky. Many mountains possessed huge slashes caused by swords. This was where God King Duanmu had once practiced the sword, so an invisible sword chi permeated the entire space. Even though countless years had already passed, the sharpness remained. Chapter 1811, Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit. 3. The place was basically a holy land for those who comprehended the laws of the sword. The slashes on the mountains were a supreme treasure to them. Even to Jian Chen, an over-god who had comprehended the laws of the sword, cultivating here would be greatly beneficial. As a matter of fact, there had been countless people who tried all sorts of methods to take the slashes away in the past years. However, none of them had succeeded so far. This was because the mountains that possessed sword slashes were all extremely tough, making it impossible to move them. There were also many people gathered before the mountain ranges. The many cultivators of various cultivation levels either sat on the rocks or hovered in the air as they tried to comprehend the sword intent. Not all of them comprehended the laws of the sword. There were even a few people who comprehended other laws. It was just that they also used swords, so they hoped to comprehend a new usage of the sword from the sword slashes or comprehend the laws of the sword as a second law. Of course, amongst the countless people here, there was only a handful who truly benefited. Jian Chen looked around before casually finding a place to sit down. With a flip of his hand, he took out the 2 scrolls detailing God King Duanmu's notes on the laws of the sword from the God King space ring. He unfurled one of them and began to study it with great concentration. This is where God King Duanmu practiced the sword in the past. Basically, the entire place is filled with God King Duanmu's slashes from his laws of the sword. Comprehending God King Duanmu's notes regarding the laws of the sword in an environment like this would make it far easier without a doubt. I'll be able to reach the partial achievement of sword spirit in the shortest time possible, thought Jian Chen. He had sensed long ago that he had already reached the minor achievement of sword spirit. He was only a step away from partial achievement. God King Duanmu was extremely accomplished in the laws of the sword, and he even reached the point where he had a foot planted in the primordial realm. The notes personally written by him would naturally be of great help to Jian Chen. Jian Chen's entire mind sank into God King Duanmu notes. Jian Chen had benefited greatly from reading the 2 scrolls. He felt enlightened, and he seemed to find a direction for many things he did not understand in the past. As a matter of fact, Jian Chen even found his erroneous assumptions through the notes, allowing him to deepen his understanding of the laws of the sword. In the blink of an eye, Jian Chen had already sat there for 10 years. During this decade, he did not move at all and remained still like a statue. A thick layer of dust had even accumulated on him. That person has sat there for 10 straight years. Has he benefited from it? A decade is not exactly long. I've even cultivated for several hundred years in a single sitting in the past, let alone a decade. It's just that I've yet to see someone who can last 10 years here, yeah. Perhaps the sword slashes are just too profound to us, so we're unable to comprehend the mysteries within it all. Basically, everyone needs to stop after 2 or 3 years to mull over what they have found or find another place to continue comprehending. There's rarely anyone who can last for an entire decade here. There has been a few gods who comprehend the laws of the sword that managed to grasp a sliver of the mysteries in there in the past few years. It's just a pity that they couldn't last for too long, and they all vomited blood, becoming heavily injured. The slashes left behind by God King Duanmu are just too profound. You'll naturally be fine if you can't comprehend it, but if you do, even gods will suffer a backlash from the sword intent. This person has lasted 10 years, so his cultivation must be extremely impressive. In just a short decade, Jian Chen had attracted the attention of many. Without any exception, all of them looked at Jian Chen in complete surprise and shock. There were even some people who looked at him in admiration. 10 years of cultivation was nothing for the people present, but being able to comprehend for 10 years at this place was a whole new story. At this moment, Jian Chen finally moved from his statue-like posture. As he moved, large motes of dust fell off him. That person has finally roused. Heavens, he actually hasn't vomited blood. Has he really been comprehending the sword intent here in the past 10 years? Looks like he entered a complete state of selflessness. He must have been comprehending. Who is this? Jian Chen immediately attracted the attention of many after rousing. At that moment, many gazes throughout the mountains had gathered on him. However, no one could recognize Jian Chen. Although they had all heard of the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, there had only been a handful of people who had truly seen him. Jian Chen did not seem to realize that so many people were staring at him. He slowly put the two scrolls away. In the past decade, he had been comprehending the slashes on the mountains and the scrolls together, allowing him to make extremely great progress. He was only a tiny step away from the partial achievement of sword spirit now. At this moment, another group of people entered the space. There were a total of 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman. The woman only seemed to be in her 20s. She was beautiful, but she was dressed extremely provocatively. She only had a single ribbon across her chest, revealing most of her body. She wore an extremely short skirt as well, so only 3 parts of her body were covered. Her round, circular legs were completely exposed. At the same time, she did not contain the hedonistic light in her eyes at all. She was filled with a deep sense of perversion. The other 2 men followed beside the woman. They were both middle-aged. However, flashes of primitive desire would flash through their eyes from time to time when they looked at the woman. However, the 2 gods did not touch this woman who was only a deity. Unless they gained permission, they would not even touch a hair on her. The provocative woman looked around. A sliver of perversion appeared in her enchanting eyes. Suddenly, she charged towards an extremely handsome young man nearby who only seemed to be in his 20s. Chapter 1812, Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit. 4. The young man was only at reciprocity, so he was unable to resist before the female deity at all. The woman captured him effortlessly. "Senior, what are you doing?" The young man began to panic. The provocative woman pushed her face up close to the young man's face. She extended her tongue and licked his face gently. She gave off a fragrance that could incite the bestial instincts of desire, and she said softly, "Little brother, don't panic or be scared. I won't hurt you because you've already caught my eye. Let me properly show some love to you. I'll take you to a land of bliss." As she said that, the woman waved her hand and a divine hall immediately flew out. It rapidly expanded in the air and landed heavily on the ground. The woman grabbed the young man and directly entered the divine hall, ignoring his resistance. The people gathered in the space to comprehend the laws of the sword looked at the provocative woman at that moment as well. However, their expressions became rather strange very soon. This was because the woman's divine hall was transparent. By transparent, it meant that everything that happened within the divine hall could be seen clearly from the outside. The perversion in the woman's eyes became even more intense within the divine hall. Under everyone's gazes, she stripped the young man naked first before ripping off everything on her body. She directly pressed the young man to the floor and sat down on him just like that, going at it publicly. "Senior, please don't, senior. Spare me." The young man was not delighted at all. Instead, he began to beg miserably. However, his body was trapped and immobilized, so he could only watch the woman sit on him. He was unable to do anything. However, his complexion gradually paled while his skin gradually lost its luster. It yellowed as if his vitality was being drained away. On the other hand, the woman was ruddy. She was in high spirits as if she had just eaten something nourishing. 2. So shameless, what a shameless person. There were also quite a few women in the space. Their faces all reddened slightly when they saw this repulsive sight, and they cursed. "Humph, you're looking to die." The 2 middle-aged men who had come in with the provocative woman immediately became angered when they heard these statements. One of them called out coldly, and a huge axe appeared in his hand. He swung it towards a few women. The huge axe cleaved through the air and sent a demonic aura towards the women. The women had not even reached the level of gods, so they completely lacked the strength to fend off an attack from a god. They all paled in fright. Great-grandfather. At this moment, one of the women called out. Nearby, the eyes of an old man who sat on a mountain peak snapped open. The moment he stood up, a sharp sword chi immediately began to radiate from him. He wielded a sword and directly sent a sword chi towards the axe. Boom! The demonic aura produced by the middle-aged man immediately dispersed while the sword chi dulled slightly as well. However, it did not disperse and instead continued towards the middle-aged man with lightning speed. A god who has comprehended the laws of the sword. The expression of the middle-aged man with the axe changed. He immediately swung out a second time and dispersed the sword chi. However, he could not help but take a small step back. At the same time, fear flooded his gaze towards the old man. At the same time, Jian Chen's eyes narrowed. He could not help but properly study the old man in interest. My great-granddaughter is not someone you can hurt. Moreover, you're literally offending the public by letting something so repulsive happen before everyone. I'll teach you all a proper lesson today. The old man wielded his sword as he radiated with powerful sword chi. He strode through the air and rapidly moved towards the two middle-aged men. He gave off quite the presence. Humph, we're from the Mo family. Sir, do you plan on going up against our Mo family? The middle-aged man with the axe growled sternly. The old man had comprehended the laws of the sword, so he was extremely powerful. He and his companion probably would not be this old man's opponent even when working together. The old man halted when he heard that they were from the Mo family. His face changed slightly, and he growled, "The Mo family? The Mo family from the divine kingdom of Qingyang?" The middle-aged men's faces could not help but brighten when they saw the old man respond like that. They could tell that he feared the Mo family. That's right. We're elders of the Mo family from the divine kingdom of Qingyang, the middle-aged man with the axe said arrogantly. At the same time, he took out a token that displayed his identity. Fear immediately appeared in the old man's eyes when he saw the token that represented an elder of the Mo family. He snorted coldly and arrived before one of the young women and stood in front of her to protect her. Clearly, he was afraid of provoking the Mo family. Great-grandfather, that woman is so shameless, the woman behind the old man said with resentment. Enough. Don't mention this again. The Mo family is a clan with an over-god. They're not a clan that we can offend, the old man said to the woman secretly. His voice was filled with hopelessness. The people who originally planned on complaining as well all settled down after the middle-aged man revealed their identities. Fear appeared in their eyes as well. They clearly did not dare to provoke the Mo family from the divine kingdom of Qingyang. Jian Chen sighed gently at this sight. He stood up slowly and casually extended a finger towards the transparent divine hall. A tiny sword chi immediately shot out with that gesture, shattering the divine hall to pieces. The powerful shockwaves created forcefully separated the woman and young man as well. The woman could not help but become furious when someone got in the way of something she was enjoying very much. She immediately called out, "Who? Who is it? Are you sick of living? Woman, please have some dignity in the public. Don't do these offending things," Jian Chen said emotionlessly as he stood on a mountain peak. There was repulsion in his eyes as well. "How dare you?" The woman did not put on any clothes and just stood up like that. Just as she pointed at Jian Chen and was about to bellow out, she could not help but become stunned. She dazedly stared at Jian Chen who stood on the mountain peak with his arms crossed, and she became infatuated. What a handsome man. In particular, his otherworldly presence makes him seem so noble. I've played around with so many men before, but I've never seen a man with a presence like that. In the blink of an eye, all of the woman's anger vanished. She flew to Jian Chen's side eagerly as she stared at Jian Chen with deep desire. She said, "Big brother, what's your name?" Chapter 1813, Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit, 5, Jian Chen frowned. He felt slightly helpless. At the same time, everyone's gazes gathered on Jian Chen once again. It's him. It's the person who sat for 10 years without moving at all. What is his cultivation? Even after learning there from the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang, he still dares to interfere. He's clearly not as simple as he seems. However, he doesn't seem to dare offend the Mo family too much either. Otherwise, the woman would have been injured when he shattered the divine hall. I wonder what he'll do now that the shameless woman has laid her eyes on him. Many people wondered as they tried to work out Jian Chen's strength and background. However, even more people wanted to see just how Jian Chen would handle the situation today. This was because he was up against the Mo family from the divine kingdom of Qingyang, which was a clan with an over-god. The woman did not become angry at all when Jian Chen remained silent. Affection filled her eyes, and she said softly, "Big brother, I've fallen in love with you at first sight, so why must you be so cold to me? Don't be so dense, let me properly show you some love. I swear that I won't hurt you at all, unlike that little brother from before. Big brother, I can teach you a dual cultivation method. We only have to try it once, and our strength will increase drastically. I can guarantee you that you'll become infatuated with it once you try it." The woman from the Mo family stood behind Jian Chen and dazedly said to his back. She was filled with hope and desire. She was not telling any lies either because she had truly become deeply attracted by Jian Chen's bearing. "Piss off, or I'll show you what I can do," Jian Chen said coldly as heavy killing intent clashed through his eyes. The woman was only a deity. She was as insignificant as an ant in Jian Chen's eyes. He could not bring himself to killing something so insignificant, but her actions had incited his killing intent. The woman from the Mo family realized that Jian Chen did not want to follow what she said when she sensed Jian Chen's killing intent. Her face could not help but darken. She planted her hands on her hips and said coldly, "I have good intentions yet you still turn me down. There hasn't been a single man that I've wanted who has managed to escape from me. You're mine for sure today. You'll become my sex slave." With that, the woman turned towards the two middle-aged men nearby and said, "Elders, please capture this person." The elders hesitated slightly before directly flying towards Jian Chen. Looks like the Mo family really doesn't have anyone good. Jian Chen was emotionless. A tiny strand of sword qi suddenly flashed near his fingers, shooting towards the woman's forehead like it was nothing. The woman was unable to put up any resistance at all before an over-god. A bloody hole appeared in her forehead, and in the blink of an eye, her soul had been wiped out. She collapsed while retaining the same posture. The two elders who flew over became stunned when they saw the bloody hole. Their eyes widened as disbelief filled their faces. They were not the only ones. Everyone in the space there became flooded with disbelief as well. She was a person from the Mo family, and she seemed to possess quite some status, yet Jian Chen had killed her without any hesitance at all. This left everyone deeply shocked. Why, you actually killed the second young lady." The two elders paled. They understood very well just what status the second young lady possessed in the Mo family. She was the person that the ancestor of the Mo family doted on, yet she had just died before the two of them like this. The ancestor would definitely become enraged. Jian Chen looked at the two elders and said coldly, "People of the Mo family, if you want to live for a little longer, you better watch yourselves in the Dong'an province. Do you know who you just killed? The ancestor will never let you go." The two elders did not dare to charge towards Jian Chen anymore. Instead, they yelled at him from afar. Both of them could tell that Jian Chen definitely had his reasons for being able to kill a person of the Mo family so fearlessly. The ancestor of the Mo family just happens to have taken something from me. Go report to your ancestor that before long, Jian Chen will be paying a personal visit, Jian Chen said. Although he had described it as a visit, it did not sound like a visit at all from Jian Chen's tone. What? Why, you're Jian Chen. Why, you're the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. The expressions of the two elders changed suddenly. They could not help but stagger backwards as shock filled their faces. At the same time, the expressions of all the cultivators gathered there changed drastically as well. Their eyes widened as they stared at Jian Chen in complete disbelief. Their hearts churned. What? He's the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. Heavens, is that what I heard? He's actually the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Chen. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is basically someone who controls the Dong'an province. I've actually had the honor of seeing him personally. At that moment, many of the gazes towards Jian Chen became filled with curiosity. At the same time, there was admiration from the bottom of their hearts. Run! Run! The elders did not dare to say anything more. They glanced at Jian Chen in complete fear before turning around and fleeing desperately. They fled the dwelling as quickly as possible. They did not even bother about the woman's corpse. Jian Chen did not stop them and allowed them to escape. Although the ancestor of the Mo family had taken an item of his, this was a matter between him and the ancestor. He found no meaning in dragging gods into their conflict. At this moment, Jian Chen looked towards the old man who had stepped in earlier. He clasped his hands and said, "Sir, may I ask for your name?" The old man immediately became startled and he heard Jian Chen ask for his name personally. He hurried to return the gesture and said, "I'm Qi Qian. I come from the Kaiyang province of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Greetings to the patriarch. Qi Qian, I see that you have some accomplishments with the sword. I was wondering if you were interested in joining my Tian Yuan clan. If you are willing, I will definitely assist you with everything I have so that you can become an over-god," said Jian Chen as he tried to rope in Qi Qian. This was because he had a vague feeling that Qi Qian's accomplishments with the sword would be far more than this. Qi Qian was overjoyed. He said emotionally, "Really? If I join the Tian Yuan clan, the patriarch will assist me in becoming an over-god?" Chapter 1814, Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit, 6, Naturally. Since I've made a promise to you, I will definitely follow through with everything I have so that you can become an over-god, given that your talent isn't too horrible, Jian Chen guaranteed. Although his current laws of the sword were only at the level of mid-over-god, he was confident that making Qi Qian an over-god would not be too difficult. Qi Qian was only a mid-god right now. There would be some time before he reached peak god. By then, with Jian Chen's rate of comprehension, he probably would have reached the major achievement of sword spirit, the great perfection of sword spirit, or maybe even sword immortal. Even if something happened, and he remained at the partial achievement of sword spirit when Qi Qian reached peak god, he was still confident it would not be too much of a problem for Qi Qian to become an over-god with his full assistance. I should be leaving this place very soon. But before I do leave, I must increase the strength of the Tian Yuan clan some more. It's best if I can get an over-god to protect the clan personally. Only then can I guarantee the safety of the clan. However, I have to deal with the matter regarding the Wainer clan as well. If I can't settle it peacefully, it won't be my fault. Otherwise, they're a latent threat at all times, thought Jian Chen. Part of why he wanted to rope in Qi Qian this time was because he had a certain feeling that Qi Qian's future accomplishments would definitely be quite impressive. Jian Chen was uncertain why he felt this, but he believed it without any hesitation at all. At the same time, there was something else important. He had already made up his mind about leaving the Tian Yuan clan. He was a person of the immortals world after all. He had to return there someday. He was not born in the immortals world. As a matter of fact, he did not know anything about that world, but whether it was his cultivation method, his legacy, or the existence of the sword spirits, they all determined him to be a part of the immortals world. As a result, he had to strengthen the Tian Yuan clan before his departure. At the very least, he had to make it so that the Tian Yuan clan could exist stably for a very long time in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Not only did the existence of the clan protect the people who had come up from the Tian Yuan continent with him, but it would have a direct connection to any other people who came up in the future. Although the tunnel to the Saints' world would drop a person to any of the 49 Great Planes or the 81 Great Planets in the Saints' world, Jian Chen believed that once he was powerful enough, he could change that. Alternatively, he could make it such that all the people who came up in the future from the Tian Yuan continent could gather in the Tian Yuan clan. Jian Chen's promise left Qi Qian overjoyed. Although he was already a god now, he had no confidence in breaking through to overgod. Across the 36 provinces of the Divine Kingdom, each provincial city possessed several dozen or even over 100 gods, but there were only a few that managed to become overgods. If he possessed the full assistance of the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, he believed he would be able to become an overgod. However, Qi Qian showed some hesitance. He said to Jian Chen, "But patriarch, I already possess a clan in the Kaiyang province. I belong to the Qi family." Jian Chen waved his hand without minding it at all and smiled, "That's not a problem. You're still a part of the Qi family once you join the Tian Yuan clan. I am indebted to the patriarch. From today onwards, I will join the Tian Yuan clan," Qi Qian said politely. Many people would choose to join larger clans or sects for better cultivation methods or to break through to higher cultivation realms in the Saints' world. Qi Qian was only making a similar decision today. With my age and talent, the people from very powerful clans and sects may not necessarily want me. Even if I do make it in out of luck, I probably wouldn't receive much focus at all. I'll just end up running my course. Although the Tian Yuan clan cannot be compared to those clans and sects, it's enough as long as the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan will assist me in becoming an overgod. At the same time, joining the Tian Yuan clan benefits me in another way as well because I won't have to worry about the revenge from the Mo family. The Mo family of the Divine Kingdom of Qingyang are known for their vengeful behavior. They're also extremely unjust. I wonder if the two elders of the Mo family will remember what I said and did today, Qi Qian thought. Qi Han greets the patriarch. At the same time, the great-granddaughter behind Qi Qian came forward and bowed politely towards Jian Chen. Many people in the surroundings looked at Qi Qian with deep envy. After all, Qi Qian did not join the Tian Yuan clan like any other person today. The patriarch had personally invited him and guaranteed to help him break through to overgod. After revealing his identity, Jian Chen's status in the space immediately became extremely special. Everyone no longer looked at him as casually and boldly as before. Instead, their gazes were filled with respect and reverence. This was because he was an overgod, as well as the person who held absolute power in the Dong'an province. Afterwards, Jian Chen gave Qi Qian an identification token that represented his position as an elder of the Tian Yuan clan before continuing his comprehension. In the blink of an eye, Jian Chen had reached the end of his second decade. After spending 20 long years comprehending here, the sword qi that permeated the space there became abnormally powerful all of a sudden, making all the cultivators present feel like they had sunken into a sea of swords. It was like a layer of invisible sword qi surrounded them. The sword qi permeated every corner of the space, and it was to the point where the origin energy in the surroundings seemed to be infected, causing it to sharpen in that instance as well. Everyone stopped cultivating and used their powerful origin energy to protect themselves, isolating themselves from the invisible sword qi the best they could. Fortunately, the sword chi there had appeared naturally and did not target them, so they did not become injured once they resisted with their full strength. There was only one person who was an exception, and that was Jian Chen. He had become covered in dust again. Jian Chen remained seated where he was like a statue and did not move at all. However, very soon, the dust on Jian Chen dispersed by itself. Gradually, a sharp and powerful sword chi began to shine from Jian Chen, growing in brightness and power. In the end, it formed a huge sword chi that plunged into the sky. From a distance, it seemed like a huge pillar that shone with an extremely bright light, rooted in the ground and reaching towards the sky. Chapter 1815, Miraculous Liquid. It's the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. He's the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. What's happening? Why is the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan suddenly emitting such powerful sword chi? Has he broken through? The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was already very powerful. I heard that the over-god of the Wainer clan was not his opponent at all and was kept at bay throughout the entire battle. Now that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has broken through, just how powerful will he become? Will he be a mid-over-god? Or a late over-god? I heard that every breakthrough for an over-god requires an extremely lengthy period of cultivation, but the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has only remained here for 2 decades, and he has broken through again. This talent is just too terrifying. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was already a peak expert within the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Even among all the over-gods, there aren't many people who are his opponent because he has comprehended the laws of the sword. Many cultivators stood in the distance as they cried out while staring at Jian Chen. Qi Qian did not leave during this period. When he saw Jian Chen make another breakthrough, he felt joy from the bottom of his heart. He was a part of the Tian Yuan clan now, so the more powerful the patriarch became, the more immovable the Tian Yuan clan status would become. His chances at becoming an over-god would increase as well. The sword chi radiated from Jian Chen for an entire day before slowly dispersing in the end. Very soon, the surroundings settled down once more. With the disappearance of the powerful sword chi, all the cultivators dispersed their protective barriers and stared at Jian Chen in reverence. At this moment, Jian Chen slowly opened his eyes as he sat on the mountain. The moment his eyes opened, a streak of light seemed to shoot out, directly striking a mountain several thousand meters away, producing a heavy boom. If it were not for the fact that all the mountains around the area had become extremely tough due to the existence of God King Duanmu's sword slashes, the mountain probably would have been penetrated by Jian Chen's gaze. I've finally reached the partial achievement of sword spirit successfully. The corner of Jian Chen's mouth curled up into a smile. After 20 years of cultivation and comprehension, his laws of the sword had broken through once more in God King Duanmu's dwelling. When I reached the minor achievement of sword spirit, my laws of the sword were only equivalent to early over-god. Afterwards, I comprehended some more on the second floor of the sword comprehension building, allowing me to make some more progress. After a few years, it culminated to the peak of minor achievement, which was equivalent to mid-over-god. Now that my laws of the sword have reached the partial achievement of sword spirit, it's equivalent to the comprehension of a late over-god, Jian Chen thought. He immediately determined his current strength. His comprehension of laws had now reached the levels of late over-gods. The only thing he lacked was the same as before, and that was personal cultivation. His chaotic body remained at the 10th layer, which was equivalent to a god. Only when his chaotic body reached the 11th layer would his cultivation reach over God. Cultivation realms depended on the comprehension of laws, while cultivation depended on the energy within the Dantian. My chaotic Niden is only missing a third of the energy it needs before it can reach the 11th layer. I have to find the cultivation resources for this third as soon as possible. Jian Chen made up his mind inside before leaving without any reluctance at all. After reaching the partial achievement of sword spirit, this place no longer held much significance for Jian Chen. This was because this was only the place where God King Duanmu practiced the sword and not where God King Duanmu decided to pass on his laws. Jian Chen had already completely understood and absorbed the comprehension that would be beneficial to him. Remaining any longer would not allow him to improve. However, Jian Chen did not know that after he left, the place where he cultivated basically became a treasured and desired area. Everyone wanted to have it for themselves as if they believed that the effects of comprehending the laws of the sword would be greatly increased as long as they practiced there. At the same time, as people from many divine kingdoms were gathered in the dwelling, the news of the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan's breakthrough was brought back to their clans as quickly as possible. In a tall tower within the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang, the ancestor of the family sat in a space. Currently, he was wearing black robes. He held an extremely damaged piece of armor in his hand as he studied it. He appeared to be hesitating. This god artifact is far too damaged. With my strength, even if I find the corresponding materials, I won't be able to repair it. If I can't repair it, this armor will only be an extremely rare but useless item for collection. I can sell it to those large sects or clans and benefit greatly, but it's a god artifact after all. Even if it's damaged, it's rather regretful for me to just sell it like that. That's because the things that those clans and sects will offer to me probably won't be enough for my strength to increase. No matter how many divine crystals and heavenly resources I possess, my strength won't increase at all as long as I can't make a breakthrough in my comprehension of laws. However, if I can repair the armor, my strength will directly increase, thought the ancestor as he hesitated. Jian Chen killed my beloved descendant, taking much delight from me. That's unforgivable. Although I've reached the peak of mid-over god, I still don't have much confidence in stopping Jian Chen's 2 strands of sword qi. I must find a way to block the 2 strands of sword qi if I want to kill Jian Chen. But I can only stop the sword qi if I reach late over god or get many over gods to work with me. It's very difficult for me to make a breakthrough in my cultivation while finding other over-gods to fend off Jian Chen with me is extremely difficult as well. After all, basically everyone has learnt about Jian Chen's strength and power from what happened in God King Duanmu's dwelling. It'll be difficult to invite them to help me against Jian Chen. Even if I can invite them, I'm unwilling to pay the price. The ancestor of the Mo family looked at the damaged armor in his hands again and murmured, "Looks like I can only use this god artifact given the current situation. The armor is a god artifact after all. I don't have to repair it completely. Just fixing it by 10 or 20% will be more than enough to stop Jian Chen's sword qi. It's just that the liquid is just too precious. Do I really have to use it like this?" The ancestor of the Mo family could not help but think about the few droplets of liquid he had come across out of luck. He had found them in outer space. When they floated quietly in space, they gave off a strange pulse. The ancestor of the Mo family did not know what the liquid was, but he did know that it was extraordinary. As a result, he collected it in delight. Afterwards, he experimented with it for countless years and finally discovered their unique property, and that was to repair. He did not know how powerful the liquid was and whether it could repair god artifacts or not. He only knew that the damaged supreme quality saint artifact he had found in the past was completely repaired with a single droplet. The only flaw was that it descended to high quality after being repaired. Chapter 18:16 Repairing the armor. The ancestor of the Mo family hesitated as he stared at the damaged armor. Uncertainty flickered through his eyes as he became extremely hesitant. With a thought, a simple jade bottle appeared in his hand silently. He stared at the jade bottle and remained quiet for a very long time. This was because the bottle contained the droplets of miraculous liquid he had accidentally come across and obtained in outer space. The liquid is extremely precious. That's without a doubt. But do I use it on the god artifact or not? Can the liquid repair the armor? If it can't, wouldn't that just be wasting the treasured liquid? The ancestor of the Mo family was extremely conflicted as he held the damaged armor in one hand and the bottle of liquid in the other. Moreover, there's something else important to consider. Wealth leads to ruin from others' greed. A god artifact is immensely precious, and even many infinite primes don't possess something like that. I definitely won't be able to keep the god artifact after news makes it out with my mere strength. I might even end up dooming myself. Of course, primordial realm experts will not notice it if I keep the god artifact in its current shape. If I repair it, there'll be more than a single primordial realm expert who will come looking for me, but if I don't repair it, how do I kill Jian Chen and take revenge for my dear descendant? The ancestor could not help but become enraged when he thought about how the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan had claimed the life of his beloved descendant. Killing intent surged within him. Of course, the message the two elders brought back was the most important. It made the ancestor panic. They had relayed the message that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Chen, would come personally to take back the armor before long. In the long run, I can't repair the god artifact right now because I won't be able to keep it with my current strength. At the same time, I heard that you have to reach the primordial realm to use the power of a god artifact. My current strength is nowhere close to that. The burning desire in the ancestor's eyes gradually vanished, and he calmed down. He gave up on repairing the god artifact with the miraculous liquid. This one greets the ancestor. I have important matters to report. A voice filled with reverence rang out from outside at this moment. Speak, said the ancestor of the Mo family. Ancestor, I've just received the news that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan from the Dong'an province has broken through recently in God King Duanmu's dwelling, the person outside replied courteously. The ancestor of the Mo family felt like a bolt had struck him from the blue when he heard that. His body shook violently, and his face sunk in that instance. Is that true? He has broken through? The ancestor growled. This was the worst piece of news he could hear. Ancestor, I've checked over many sources, and there have been no contradictions. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has indeed broken through in God King Duanmu's dwelling. However, his current level of cultivation is unknown, the person outside replied courteously. The ancestor of the Mo family fell silent, and his face darkened. After quite a while, he waved his hand and said, I understand. You can go. Descendant will be dismissing myself then. The ancestor of the Mo family sat in the room. His sunken face quickly turned stern. If Jian Chen had not broken through, the ancestor would only treat him as a powerful opponent and a great trouble for the future. Although he did pose some threat, the threat was not fatal. This was because in his eyes, there was nothing that he feared about Jian Chen apart from his profound sword qi. He did not worry about Jian Chen's cultivation level at all. This was because he had already reached the peak of mid-over-god, while Jian Chen was only at early over-god. Even if he comprehended the laws of the sword, Jian Chen would not be his opponent. If Jian Chen did not possess the deterrent of the two strands of sword qi, the ancestor would have directly made his way towards Jian Chen after the former killed his beloved descendant. However, he learnt that Jian Chen had broken through. If he really did break through, would that not mean that Jian Chen's cultivation level was the same as his own now? If Jian Chen had really reached the same cultivation level as him, he knew he would not be Jian Chen's opponent with Jian Chen's battle prowess from the laws of the sword and the two strands of terrifying profound sword qi. Since Jian Chen has broken through, he'll come looking for me in the divine kingdom of Qingyan before long. I can't give this god artifact back to him. Not only that, but I have to kill him to take revenge for my beloved descendant. The ancestor of the Mo family growled as cold killing intent appeared in his eyes. Looks like I'll have to do it. The armor is my greatest trump card for killing Jian Chen. The ancestor of the Mo family made up his mind. Immediately, without any hesitation, he unscrewed the bottle and directly poured a droplet of the mysterious liquid onto the damaged armor. The liquid was transparent, but the moment it appeared, there was an indescribably mysterious presence. When it came in contact with the damaged armor, it immediately fused into it. The ancestor of the Mo family stared at the armor nervously. In reality, he had no idea whether the miraculous liquid could repair god artifacts. Suddenly, the god artifact began to shine with a dense light under the ancestor's close watch. It enveloped the entire god artifact in a single instance. Through the dense light, the ancestor of the Mo family could clearly see that the damaged armor was being repaired at an extremely gradual rate. Even though the rate of repair was slower than a snail, there was no doubt that the armor was slowly being repaired. It actually can be repaired. It actually can. Fantastic, fantastic. This is utterly fantastic. With the protection of the god artifact, how will Jian Chen injure me as a mere overgod? Even if I can't use the power of the god artifact with my current level of cultivation, the god artifact won't be something an overgod can smash through. The ancestor of the Mo family was extremely overjoyed. His face had become flushed. He could swear that he had never been so excited since he began cultivating. 4 hours later, the dense light around the armor gradually vanished, revealing the armor again. The armor was still damaged, but compared to before, there were extremely evident changes. Some places had been repaired already, and it seemed like it had started to return to its previous state. A god artifact really is a god artifact after all. A single drop of the liquid can only repair so much. Looks like I'll have to use up all of it to fully repair the god artifact, murmured the ancestor of the Mo family. Making up his mind, he poured all the liquid onto the god artifact in a single stroke. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.